Today's a really special day, not only because of you, but because we have somebody back on the show.
Just for today.
After 6 months. John Rondi Sr., my dad, is back on the podcast. How does it feel to now be on the John Rondi Show? How do you feel about the number 37?
The number of chromosomes that each parent donates to an embryo is 37. The human body temperature in Celsius is 37. The number of holes in like an old-fashioned telephone like receiver is 37. If you survey people across the entire world, pick a random number between 1 and 100 that you think is the most random number. 37 and 73 are the two most common answers that are given.
That's crazy.
I want to get your thoughts and predictions on the real estate / mortgage space in 2025.
Okay, so here's what I know about real estate, the umbrella, mortgage financing, the whole thing.
Look at my dad. Can you
tell you.
Can you get a zoom in on my dad's face?
I gotta tell you, this is for different reasons.
Welcome back, everyone, to the John Rondi Show. The John Rondi Show.
Help me. Please help me.
Special guest having Dan O'Neill on the podcast for the first time. A long time coming. It's been about 2 years in preparation, but today's a really special day.
Yes.
Not only because of you, but because we have somebody back on the show.
Just for today.
After 6 months.
You never know.
Maybe for 5 minutes.
John
you never
Rondi
know.
Sr.
We'll see what's kind of.
John Rondi Sr., my dad, is back on the podcast. How does it feel to now be on the John Rondi Show?
Give me a kiss.
You know, wait, you want to know something funny? Anytime, anytime we're around, anytime we're around strangers, when I say goodbye to my dad, he goes, "Come here, give me a hug, love you."
You're so full.
And I'm like,
can anyone make it more like uncomfortable? I don't know.
No, but this is my family too.
It's like, why you always kiss me when you're around people? I'm like, what are you even talking about?
no, that's
What are you talking about?
This is. I love this.
Now I won't intentionally because you're gonna.
you can
think
still
I
kiss.
am
No,
intentional.
you can still kiss me.
Oh,
I just had the
thank you.
best idea. So when we get into the AI stuff, they built a cognitive behavioral therapist for me
Wow.
on ChatGPT that you can like role play with. That I could put your disc profile in and yours, and you guys can figure out how to communicate with each other.
No, we really should do that.
I swear to God.
Post podcast. So keep that as a note. Well, Dan, we're gonna roll right into this, man. You are now, as of recent, 3 months ago, a Serhant agent.
Yes, sir.
Prior to, you had a little boutique shop down in South Jersey.
So
Florida?
we were in Long Island. It was a small boutique firm. We expanded down into Florida, the West Coast, and now I'm in New York City, here in Soho, still doing the Florida expansion. We're still doing Long Island. And by the way, too, also absolute pleasure to be here. This is incredible. Time is like one, flat circle. I remember sitting at your home or your vacation home in Jersey and eating pizza with your wife. Your brother was there, right? We were drinking the Pappy Van.
It's good stuff.
It's cool to now be in the middle of this and you being back for the first time. You guys are going to be back in no time.
Because of you.
No, not because of me, because of the cognitive behavioral therapist I'm going to give to you guys at the end.
Correct. You got me in a suit jacket and my dad on the podcast. So I have to say thank you. I heard you had a bit of a muddy transition from where you were to where you are now.
Yeah, and Mr. Rondi can probably, speak on it too. It's kind of just the industry, right? Like it's very, very cutthroat. I wanted to make sure that I was doing the right thing, at least, or what I felt was the right thing when leaving my previous brokerage. And this is actually the first podcast that I've done, so I haven't really talked or spoken about it. But for me, I wanted to make sure that I could put my head on the pillow every night. And what a lot of people do in this business, unfortunately, is they will leave a brokerage and they'll add other agents or other people to where they're going.
Yeah.
So they basically are placing their deals in the future under that brokerage, which to me is incredibly slimy, illegal, all the things. Or what they'll do is they will, hide listings and wait or sign them until they make the move. I made sure that everything, every piece of paperwork, every deal, every closing check that I had was given to them that day. So that way I could, however they reacted or responded to that, I could at least sleep at night.
How did they respond initially? Like to your face?
Obviously they weren't happy, right? They were definitely very hurt. I was very close to them. Like they meant a lot to me. I meant a lot to them. They treated me like family. And so I understand it from a business perspective. I totally get where, how they can perceive it because there's three sides to every story for sure. Yeah. I just really wanted to make sure that, I'm 30 years old, I'm going to make mistakes. Maybe I didn't handle it the best way. Maybe I could have, talked to them or spoken, with them more. I just wanted to, if I have the thought, I didn't want to be sitting with it. I felt, I didn't feel right knowing I wanted to leave. And it was nothing that they did. This is very much just my own journey, and I'm 30 years old, and I felt like if I was doing X where I was, if now I'm able to join a firm that is tech heavy, that is content heavy, media heavy, that is expanding in all ways and learn from the person that I want to be like.
Oh, wait.
Have you ever thought about being a leaf blower in New York City?
Sorry, one second,
Unbelievable.
guys. Yeah.
He's right there. I mean, this guy is just so you don't understand what's going on. There is a gentleman blowing leaves right out here. It's not fall, it's winter. There's really not a lot of leaves. He's just moving stuff around.
He was
and
actually
he
just
is
blowing
right in front of us.
He
And
was
we
just-
asked him several times to be mindful of that, and actually gave him a little bit of a Mr. Jackson. Unbelievable. Go
That's
somewhere
crazy.
else. It's a big street. Go somewhere else.
He was just doing this like the wind, the door right here.
Unbelievable. He's
There's
right
not
in
a
front of
leaf
the door.
for miles. He's got to be done.
He's getting paid by the hour,
I know.
I'm sure. So. I mean, of all the rooms we picked, this is the room
Any
we
more
picked.
cash on you from last night? Yeah.
Don't give him more cash.
I'm gonna
No.
say like stop.
No.
we're good.
You
Let's
can't. You
just-
gave him $20. He's disrespected it.
Let's just
Throwing more cash at him will not help.
right,
No.
I
But
don't
there's
want you
another
guys-
good
no,
life
let's just-
lesson
no,
there. He
we're
had cash on you, which I'm impressed with.
Oh yeah, because of you. Because of you.
Yeah, a quick note and a tip from what? Oh, Dan's gonna show us something.
Sorry, I'll go back to the Rondi.
So a quick note that my dad always says: keep cash on you. So you have to tip somebody, you could do it on the spot. That's what Dan just did.
Yes.
and it worked wonders.
And at the coffee shop, and I mentioned to
Coffee
him.
shop.
I mean, that was 2 years ago, and he was telling us, right, like our generation, and he so true.
Yeah.
Never carry cash. It's always Apple Pay. Apple Pay. I don't even have my license on me right now. Your father has 2 licenses on him. He has a passport, a real ID. Then he also has behind his phone case a hidden $100 bill.
Yep.
He has it in that coat jacket,
That's right.
and then more cash hidden in like a sock, and more cash in his other phone.
Because suppose I lose something. If I lose
Right.
something.
God forbid.
So he's
Something.
right.
Right.
So
Like
back
Apple
in
Pay doesn't
here-
exist.
Back in here, he's right. 2 IDs. and
That
my
is
friend-
so funny.
And my friend.
That is
friend.
hilarious.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So guess what? Yeah, you go somewhere and
No,
Apple Pay's
that's
not working.
amazing.
You need. This is American currency.
Apple Pay works
This-
everywhere.
No,
just
no, it
so you
doesn't.
know.
No, it doesn't.
You
No, it
want to
doesn't.
know where it doesn't?
Where?
Off the top. I just told him. I went to Home Depot the other day. I had stuff all ready to go. They don't do Apple Pay.
Really?
Yep.
Gas
and I had to
stations?
run back to the car. I didn't have enough cash on me to pay for it. So I went to the car. My wallet was in there, and I used my credit card. But you would be surprised how many places either don't take it or it's not working.
Yes.
It's broke.
I almost ran out of gas. I was telling your father, and that's why I was like, "Hey, thank you for the cash idea." It always remains true in my head, and I always stop to get some, not for just tipping. If somebody's blow drying their hair outside of the office here in the main street of Manhattan,
Right.
But also, so I ran out of gas, and it was like 12:30 at night. And I know in Jersey you guys get your gas pumped for you, but in New York on Long Island you don't. And so I kept pulling over at gas stations because I saw that they were open. And I would go, and I see it blinking, and I would go look, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I don't have my cards on me."
No way.
I left my wallet at the office, and so I was trying to use Apple Pay, wouldn't work. I was swerving my car like this to try and switch the gas around just to make it to the next gas station.
That is that's a really good. That's also a good tip. Swishing the gas around, make sure you make
Yeah,
it.
I
well,
don't think
well,
that
don't-
really works. It might make you feel better. I don't know if it's switching it around.
Honestly, I probably actually burned the little of gas that I had left.
You actually added more
I
long
don't
to
know.
more life to your journey, but
But if I didn't have if I didn't remember what your dad had said at the time or your father
That's
said
so
at the time, like that was my biggest takeaway because I never carried
I'm
cash.
flattered by that, and that is so true. And
Right.
you rely, not you specifically, you guys. No, the general you, the collection of you, people rely on things working, and it's great until it doesn't.
Right.
And then what's your backup plan? What's your own personal strategy of getting out of that situation? You have to have the thought process that gets you out of a situation.
right.
Well, period.
Dad tip number 1 of the day is keep cash on you. You were mentioning how you transitioned from boutique to here.
Yes.
And the reasons why, which all make a lot of sense to me. And I answered the question first, why did you even start boutique?
I started because I liked the underdogs, and there really wasn't much of a story. It was an integrity move on my behalf, and I thought that joining a bigger firm, they wouldn't allow me to be myself and just do the things that I like to do, which is the funny skits and the comedy and just be myself. Right? I didn't want to really be too corporate at the time, and I was also young and immature, and I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
In that, I found a lot of passion in helping them become one of the top firms on Long Island, and right now they are number one, and they've risen from, they've grown from 500 agents to 2,000 plus. They allowed me to, help them with the expansion in Florida, and it just came to a point where I felt my time there for me was enough, and I wanted to take the chance now. I'm 30, I'm single, I don't have the children. Eventually I'm going to, and I'm not going to be able to work to the capacity that I am, and and I'm sure you even know too, like you were probably gone a lot when you were a child.
Yeah.
If I have a family and kids and everything right now, I can't do that. So at 30 years old, it's relating it to sports. I felt like, if I signed a contract right now and I learn and I absorb everything I can from people like your father, because this is what this is. Like, this is the wisdom every which way you turn.
Yeah.
Between the content team downstairs, between the media, between the the technology, everything that they're doing, I'm just soaking up like a sponge. And in 2 years from now, I'm going to be the best version of myself.
You're going to be where you want to be, but that's the alignment part, right? So what I'm hearing is a very, it's a path that is consistent with overachievers, right? Not being afraid to get yourself out of a comfort zone. You were comfortable where you were. You were doing really well. You just shared some of your numbers with us, and those are some powerhouse numbers, some closings and some income that's obviously related to the amount of transactions that you're doing. But there is so much more that's out there, and it's hard when you reach that impasse to know what to do.
Yeah,
because emotions, and then other variables like people who you once would trust and say are family and friends, they'll turn on you.
It breaks my heart.
And it's
You'd
unfortunate.
have me cry because it's so true.
It's unfortunate, but you have to expect it. And I don't want to tell you, I relate to this so well because I've been on both sides. My first side was learning the business in the mortgage financing world from two men who put a lot of time into me. And I've said this before, everyone should be a mentor and everyone should be a protege. And when I was the protege, those mentors, when I was 28, 29 years old, they gave me a lot of time. And so I felt a lot of loyalty to them.
Yes.
And when it was time to leave, I saw a side of them that all of a sudden was like, you're so ungrateful. I'm like, well, no, I'm not. This is how I feel. And it hurt.
Yes.
It hurt me because I thought I was doing the right thing. And then it kind of, you know what I mean? That's the part that until you go through it on one side or the other, you don't know how you're going to really be able to navigate, the things that hit you square in the face, emotion, disappointment, frustrations, and all the like.
Confusion too.
Right.
And you're exactly right. I've had people that have left the team, and I've taken it as like a feather in my cap. Like I'm so proud of you that you want to go and take that journey, right? Like I'm happy for you. Yeah. And like you said too, like you kind of see a different side. It was a side that, and I'm not even disparaging them by any means, but and I get it because they were upset, and I would be too, and they were hurt and all the things. But I was doing it for me, and you would think, right? I still love them. I would not be where I am today without them. But it really hurt. And I had to sit there for 2 or 3 months and not say, this is the first podcast I've done. I just sit there and, kind of take it. And Mr. Ryan Coyne, the co-founder here, will tell you.
Wait a minute. We have the co-founder of Serhant right now.
Come on in. Mr. Ryan Coyne, everybody. Co-founder of Serhant here, the CTO.
CTO of Ryan Serhant right here.
CTO.
Well, he's going to be the CXO now.
We're back. We are now joined by Ryan Coyne. We're going to call him Coyne because there's
only one Ryan at this company.
Right.
John.
Is there?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, well,
One that matters.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, Coyne, you actually you prefer being called Coyne.
There's really
It's
only
like a
one.
Bono or a Beyonce thing for me.
Right.
Being known industry-wide as a single syllable system of like power, like a symbol of excellence. I like it.
It's a really cool name too.
Thank you.
And I heard you're the reason
John's
why.
just okay.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Very well known.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I heard you're the reason why Dan is actually here.
Guilty as charged. I'm very sorry. I continue to apologize to everybody, to Dan, to my family. Yeah.
How'd you get him here?
We had an event in March 26th of 2024 where one of our agents was psychotic enough to rent out an entire theater for a recruiting event.
Okay.
And I said to this gentleman who said, I'm going to have to charge $50 per ticket. I said, you're going to charge people for a recruiting event That is a special kind of insane. And the only way this works is if we give people a show. We have a theater. Let's do a Tonight Show. I will MC it and host it. I'll do a monologue of jokes. We'll bring different people up on stage. We'll play games with the crowd. We ended up doing like Mad Libs with a listing description, where we took just a regular description of a house, washed out the adjectives and nouns and stuff. And then the audience had no idea what I was doing. I was collecting all this stuff. And then Ryan ended up reading this crazy listing description to the crowd without knowing what I was doing either, that involved a pool that had a built-in turkey baster right near a placenta tree. It was actually insane. And Dan comes up to me at the end of this thing after the event, the celebration, and he says, I hate you. And his like sounds like he swallowed a driveway of gravel voice, right? And he says, I actually hate you because before I came here, I was fine with my life, and now I just want to be part of everything you're doing. And the rest is history.
Really? So why were you going there then?
Okay, so that's the sad part. The sad part is I was going there on a spy mission. I was insecure that my team would be going to the event as a recruitment employee. So I went there to spy on my team to see if they were going.
Oh, interesting.
And not a single agent from my team at the time went. So I was there by myself. And yes, so I went there for the wrong reasons. And then we bonded, and I was like, all right, you know what, I'll hear the pitch, right? Like I'm never not open to, hearing. Yeah. And then I was like, wow, you know what, this could really help my business. This could really help me grow as not only an individual, but professionally. And it's done those things.
Right. Now, you said you'll hear the pitch. Did they pitch you or you pitch them?
A little bit of both. Yeah. So what I love about the firm so much is most real estate brokerages right now, it's, if you have your driver's license or if you have 6 like your father in his pocket, in a heartbeat, it's like, hey, come on in, you're in, right? There's not really much of a barrier of entry. Here is very much like they interviewed me, which I thought was very interesting. And I liked very much because our industry does have a little bit of a quality control issue, as you've seen with the NAR lawsuit. On Long Island, we had a really bad racism and
the steering thing.
Yeah, steering issues. So for me, it was awesome to actually get interviewed. Like I left there and I was like, what just happened? Like I thought I was supposed to be asking you guys some questions.
So normally, like at your old boutique shop, you have your license. You pretty much walk in and say, hey, I want a job, and they'll give it to you?
The first brokerage I ever went to, I thought I got the job. I was so excited. I went to White Good Realtors, who actually are big in Jersey.
Yeah, very big.
There's only one office with like 20 people, and shout out to them. They're great. But I went there and they were like, yeah, you're hired. I was like, I called my mom. I'm like, I got the job. Yeah, I got the job. Little did I know. It was
everybody.
Everybody.
Fagamira.
Yeah. So there wasn't much to that job, right?
There was nothing. No. I just didn't know at the time. And I don't think most agents know.
They get excited because they're now signed. What is the interview process like at Serhant?
It was very long.
The hot coals, you were really about that, having to do the hot coals exercise. That was good. Yeah.
Yep. They throw you into the water like you're a Marine, and you have to you're drowning, but you have to pretend like you're not. That situation.
That was very Cell Team 6, we call it.
Yeah. I love that.
Cell Team 6.
No, but it was there was a lot because there was a lot of moving parts too. There was New York, there was Florida, there was the emotional side, the loyalty side. It was truly the toughest thing I've ever had to do, aside from the financials. So I grew up with no money. That means nothing to me. It was the people that were involved. It was the relationships that I'd had and built, and reputation. Like you go anywhere in Jersey and your father, everyone speaks so highly of. Being in a business for 30 years and having that and maintaining that is everything. All you have is your integrity and your...
That's it.
And so for me, that was the toughest part, was hearing the rumors of why I left and all the different things, and knowing that it wasn't true, but just having to keep having to be quiet and just show it based off of production and how I was showing up.
You mentioned before, do you think you would have handled it differently looking back?
Don't answer that question.
I don't think you would.
I would.
I think your character is your character. I don't think you would. And you know what? That whole transition, whether it's mortgage, because it happens everywhere, any sales position where you have something in the tank and you have to make that decision. Do you sit and wait till it all closes and feed the next beast where you're going? That's an ethics issue.
Yes.
And if you're an ethical person, you handle it the way he did.
Why is that? Why is that an ethical issue?
Because you're not supposed to. If I'm working for boutique shop, ABC Mortgage Bank, I work for you still. You're paying my benefits. I'm here every day to bring value, and anything that I represent, I'm representing this bank. I don't work for the other place yet.
Yeah.
So the clean lines are just that. Then close out what you have. Don't write another stitch of business until you get it all booked, and then you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you trust in the good faith of other people sometimes, and they have different ideas. And that's why lawsuits come into play, right? That's why there's legalities of things.
And which is that's another thing that's very tough. Like at 30 years old, I'm going now, it's something that I would never, I just want to, hey, like we're all, we're working together for a long time. And again, I understand, people were hurt but if you were to ask me if I were to do it the same way, I would have done it the exact same way because I can put my head on the pillow and I feel good about it. And even if people don't know that yet, or they don't know the whole story, and there are 3 sides, but at least I know my side, and I know it to be true. And when you tell the truth and not have to go back and recount lies or exaggerations, it's very, very easy. Because it's very easy to go back and say, this was true, because he was there the whole time. He knows.
But this is a very important life lesson for anyone who's listening or watching, or just because we're talking about it. So the balance is, if you come to your boss, the person that's making a decision, your manager, the leader, of
even a partner,
and you say, I'm thinking of leaving, I'm leaving, you better be prepared to leave.
Yes.
Because they can turn around and go, okay, goodbye. And they have that at will employment agreement that's how it goes. I managed
there's the door policy.
I managed a lot of people for a long time. And once it was clear that they didn't want to be here with me, then let's just leave. Yeah. Like let's do it today. Well, I'm not ready today. Yep. No, we're going to do it today because you have a laptop, you have intellectual property that's ours. Yes. I may have trained you, right? That's the emotional piece. You may have been around and have way too much insight to other teams. It's probably best if you're not all here, then let's just do it now. So you have to really think this step through when you're
it's business too, right? So you could say that, right? And say, I'm thinking about leaving, and now they could say, okay, well, he's probably leaving. Let's do what we can to keep the team or keep the business, clients,
whatever resources you can keep back.
That's it.
And I felt I didn't want, I would never want to be in a position, because I was trying to put myself in their shoes. I would never want to be in a position where you were still here, looking me in the eyes, doing business, talking to me, using the resources, knowing that you were already 1 foot out the door or had signed somewhere. Right. To me, that was just, it was a vile feeling. So the second that I had the thought, and it wasn't like a thought, I was thinking about it. The second that I had my mind made up was the second I picked up the phone.
Did you ever see the movie Jerry Maguire? When Jerry says less clients, more attention, fewer clients, what happens? They bring in, they fire him. Yeah. And that's obviously a Hollywood depiction of it, but
the manifesto.
But that's the way those situations are always going to be handled.
And I see it too, as two younger, people that are having success and that people look up to. You are dealing with it too, where it's really interesting and a weird feeling to have people DM you and reach out to you and say that you inspire them, you motivate them, all the things. So when that's happening, and you're not feeling your best version of yourself, or you're down in the dumps, it's tough to put that smile on every day and show up and be the best version of yourself. And for me, it was this is my pivotal moment. If I can get past this, if I can make it on the other side of this, that guy could be blowing the leaves in my ear for the rest of my life, and I'll be okay. And I'm for the first time, I have a fatal flaw. I'm never proud of myself because it's always the next mountaintop, the next Everest.
You are, though. I've heard. Okay.
This situation is the first time I've sat there and said, I'm very proud of myself for how I handled this.
I'm proud of the way that you're handling things.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I view the way my sense of self as like a hot air balloon, kind of, right? Not just because of my shape, but because of the fact that a hot air balloon is tethered to the ground to keep it from flying away, right? And you've got these different aspects, the pillars of your life. You have your hobby, you have your vocation, you have your family, maybe your faith, maybe the different things that keep you grounded. So that if any one of those things is shaken or tugged at, your balloon's not just flying away, no matter how much somebody's cranking that flame for the hot air to go up. And I think that one of the things that I saw in the work that we were doing together to rebuild you, my $6 million man here, was that we needed to make sure that you had so many of those tethers that were connected to the ground, you know, because there were some things that were in that transition that you had no choice but to let go of those ropes to make a change, right? Mm-hmm. And it actually showed and highlighted the strength of how much those other ropes were really well connected or not.
Can you explain some of those ropes that you had to help him with?
Yeah, I mean,
first time we have your dad's gonna go make the mozzarella.
a lot of the work that I do with our agents is actually not technology focused. Like technology here, I have a great team. I have awesome people around me that help me execute all kinds of things, and I'm very fortunate that I have the kind of time with our agents that I do. It's very quality time to talk about the mental side of it, right? There's always a why. Like upstairs just before this, somebody was saying to me what was important that they thought was holding them back in their decision to come here and what they were looking for, right? And I challenged them with a question of, do you actually care that it's done this way, or do you just care that it's done and done well? There's not a lot of tech people that are gonna ask that kind of a question. Right. I'm trying to get to like the root. Where's the why and the motivation this is coming from? So even the conversations with Dan, this will be around, tell me about what the support system and the structure of your business and your life looks like. What are the different people and kind of paradigms in your business that we can help fortify? Because some of the conversation is not about just nuts and bolts of how we're helping you. It's about understanding the right kind of support. I might say to another department, hey, you know what? Patrick is the right person to work with that person whenever they reach out, because I feel like those two are going to be more aligned on the way that they're seeing the world, you know, some of that ideology about the approach in business or marketing. So I think when you analyze somebody's business, some people are very fortunate they have that like 10-year assistant, or they have that business partner that they can count on if things get shaky or when they want to make big decisions. But a lot of people are feeling lonely. You know, they need that support of people who are taking the time to understand their process and their personality.
Yeah, I mean, outside looking in, the real estate space seems like it's, you know, eat what you kill, kill or be killed. I'm in this alone type of scenario. I would expect a lot of people to feel lonely, and I am surprised that even the CTO of Serhant cares more about the mental state of the agents versus the technology, you know?
It came from the way that I built my business. I'm 38. For 22 years, I've been fortunate to have people trust me to come in and be a component of their decision making for their business or how they run their day to day. And a lot of that was successful because of taking that time to connect and understand, so that every recommendation I was making, and even some of the thinking I would do for them, not instead of them, but on their behalf when they weren't in the room, things I would watch out for and listen for in their business, you know, and know what to talk to them about, things that would cause anxiety if I didn't also bring a solution with the problem, things like that. The relationships were what built my career, not the technology.
Right.
Because technology is replaceable. Right. You can augment it. You can go build a different one. You can pay somebody enough money for anything. But being a functional partner, even when you're not literally a business partner, is a huge piece of that. So like Ryan Serhant, for example, started working together just about 11 years ago. And that process, like that village of people that it took to build him, which, use your imagination for which village person I am in that analogy.
I did.
Yeah. So anyway, what it took to get that
for
done,
a reason.
what it took to get that done,
Van XO, XXXL.
was a lot of the mental game. That guy's being pulled in a million different directions all the time. He's getting mercilessly attacked. He can't have a bowel movement without the Real Deal writing about it.
Right.
Okay. So when it comes to what does it mean to fortify, to be able to grow and scale and to have that stability, man, tech is a piece. But if you're not thinking about the holistic picture, if you're not looking at what are the things that keeps this person up at night, what are the things that are holding them back, is it themselves?
Right. Can you explain why then is your title CTO?
I'm truly a technologist at heart. Like my 5-word description is technology ambassador for the people. That's how I've been described since my teens. No, for real.
They were calling you that night. Junior high.
Somebody told me that you need to have like a 5-word descriptor.
Who told you that?
A business coach that I was working with.
At 16?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was consulting strange people. Anyway. But yeah, that's something that I've always found, that my ability to articulate, communicate, make it real, make it relatable with the use of analogy and metaphor was something that made technology more accessible. So being the person who was more like business operations, tech side, that was able to coordinate and help you achieve your business goals was a powerful thing. I didn't know everything. I still don't, never will. But I know how to rally the right resources. Right. I know to tell you if I think that what you're doing is a stupid idea, or deserves more consideration, whatever it is, and resource, and make sure we get the thing done. The business goal is achieved.
Yeah.
And your father too is very much like me, pen to paper, right? No tech. It's just relationships, shaking hands, kissing babies, all of that. Yeah. And so you can hear it from the things that he's saying. Not only is he funny, but how much wisdom he has. That was something that when we went to your house in Jersey, and we were joking about the cash thing, but I didn't have that in my life. Like where I was big fish, small pond at 28 years old. And I was sick of learning these lessons the hard way, right? Like not the cash maybe example, but I took away from that. I'm like, I need more of that, right?
Yeah. You need a perspective shift. That was most of what I did with you, was help you sort out thoughts and feelings that were already there and teach you to compartmentalize and regulate them.
Yes, very important.
But there's a whole C-level suite upstairs of people like you and of like Mr. Rondi, where he's been in the business for 30 years. He's gonna tell me like little life lessons that for Tam is just like, I got 3 licenses on me. I'm sitting here, trying to check in my hotel last night, like, oh crap, where's my license? It's like, it's so silly and so subtle, but to even just sit down with your dad for an hour and hear about how he built his business and how he's now also getting back into it, because very much the same. Yeah. I removed myself from production as I was building our Florida office. It's hard.
If he's been in business that long, I'm sure if you took off your shirt, you have like scars from being in like a Russian prison.
Basically.
Is that what's going on there?
Yeah, you touched on, you said compartmentalize. Everyone needs to understand what that really is, not just as the catchphrase. But if you figure out what it is to compartmentalize and slow things down and break it down and know that it's over there and I'm going to get to it, but this is more important right now, so I'm going to do this. Prioritizing, compartmentalizing, very important. The other thing is, it's reinventing yourself. So I'm getting back into the mortgage field.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
But here's the difference. You're right. It's a long thought process. Even as I say it, I'm not sure I want to.
Explain, give him like a reason why. Why are you getting back into it?
Yeah, so basically when this influencing stuff started to get traction and take off, the timing was interest rates went up. And so I didn't leave the mortgage industry. The industry literally left me because there was no more. My friends, my peers, the guys that I trained, lost 60 and 70% of their business. It evaporated overnight, differently than 2008 and some of the other years where we went through.
Close the container, the water just gets right out.
Yeah, well, but their business evaporated because people may have still been buying houses, but they weren't financing. Right. People were making cash offers. People are using their own money. So therein lies why I say 60.
It wasn't a financial instrument the same way it was. You're saying,
right? And the refinance segment of the market went away. No one's refinancing. The purchase business changed. People were using their own cash. Well, why wouldn't I just use my own cash? Rates are 7, 8, 9%. Why? I'll just use my own cash. So that affected the mortgage guys and girls. So I just was like, all right, there's nothing to do. I was done and I focused on that. Still not hanging my hat, still not really working, which was very unnerving because it wasn't like I just retired. I didn't retire. I wasn't ready for it, but I had to make some decisions, and that's the reinventing part. So I had to reinvent myself. I had to take myself off of what I was used to doing, the pace at which I was doing it, the people that reported to me, all of the responsibility, a routine that was Jim, right?
30 years.
office.
Is that
work,
something you've
right.
done throughout your entire career in terms of a strategic pivot when you felt a shift like that? Or is that the first time that you did that?
No, it's probably, I feel like the pivots and the moments of self-awareness occurred so numerous times over my 30 years of being a lot of things, right? Being a husband, being a father, being a leader, being, like I said earlier, a protege at certain points.
A handsome and
And
charismatic podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Right.
Well, not really a
Host them more,
podcaster.
He throws the chirp in there. He's got to throw the chirp. He's got to throw
He's
the
a guest.
chirp.
He's a guest today.
Keep him on his toes.
Yeah,
I'm a
guest
guest.
today.
I'm a guest. I am not. Listen, podcasting. I think I don't want to get off subject. Let's get back to this. Because
Derailed.
Johnny will trip you in a few
you know what?
minutes. Anyway. We'll bring it right back.
You put a microphone in people, and all of a sudden they're experts.
Yeah.
And you know what? No, you're not. I mean, but you're just not.
Yeah.
You have to carry the bag. You need to understand it takes a lifetime before you can step back and say, wow, look what I did. Yes, you're proud, but look what I went through. Here's why the experience is greatest in value when you can share with other people so that they don't run into the potholes that are right in front of
Yeah,
them.
we call that earning the right. It's like
Yeah.
you've been through things that have given you the right
Right.
to be able to speak wisdom to truth
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
That's
And
right.
again,
That's
I
the word is
pause-
wisdom.
I pause. I really
Pain is just wisdom that's in progress to becoming wisdom.
right. Okay, so you guys are.
That was a good one.
There's
Say that one more time in the mic.
The pain will leave when it's finished teaching you and becomes wisdom is the line.
the pain will leave you.
Like that one. I'm gonna write that on my wall.
Maybe get a tattoo. Why not?
Give me another reason.
See, now
Give
he's
me
throwing
another.
the germs
Give
on
me
your body.
another reason.
Yeah, like
Well,
everyone
Ryan,
else.
I want to bring something back up before you mentioned how
So funny.
Dan, what he needed the most was a perspective change. How often and how frequent are you seeing that with guys around our age?
When there's the right intervention, it can happen for anybody. I think that most people, if left to their devices and they're under a considerable amount of pressure, probably fewer than 20%, maybe even fewer than 10% of the population is going to come to those conclusions on their own without some kind of professional or personal or emotional or financial rock bottom. Rock bottoms don't have to happen. Right? Like you hear people refrain like that person's just going to have to hit rock bottom as if they're made of rubber and they're just going to bounce back up once they hit the bottom. No, if you hit the bottom from 75 feet or above, you fucking die. Like that's just what happens.
You, oh my God.
So I mean that would be like nobody wants to clean that up.
They gotta be out there. Yeah.
That's a five alarm truck situation.
So shut down.
Those drones over Jersey, crazy. You know? Yeah. So anyway, no, I think that with the right understanding and empathy, if you can get to the core of what's making somebody tick, and you take an interest, like you would people joke about wanting to clone themselves, like you could scale your business if you just had more of you,
Right.
which is why you had John, I guess.
Right,
yeah. But the real thing is, like on Star Trek, if you had the bridge full of Captain Kirks, it wouldn't work.
Right.
You need the balance of the different skill sets and personalities and stuff like that. So you were saying like the C-suite upstairs, I don't need 15 of me. I need my colleagues to be amazing, otherworldly at what they do. I'll do that. We're a coral reef. We all have a job to do. This will be a fantastic ecosystem, right?
Coral reef.
So everybody, going back to the hot air balloon or the coral reef analogy, as long as you've got that support structure in place to hold you up and to hold you accountable or to be as a support resource, you will have different skill sets and strengths contribute to you coming to those epiphanies and realizations and putting in that work. It's about that effort, and it's about earning that effort because of having integrity and showing up. If you are giving with no intention to receive back as a general rule in your life, then that's something like a savings account of support that when you do need to make a withdrawal in a tough time, it's there for you
Yeah,
because
good
your
point.
relationships aren't based on being transactional. Despite being in an industry that's largely dependent on transactions, if your relationships aren't, it will come back to you and people will go out of their way to be there to help with that perspective shift because you don't have objectivity. You're too close to it. You know, you need people around you who aren't emotionally compromised and that aren't hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. The four things that are the base modifiers of what it makes you,
Yeah.
to be able to say, here is what I think your problem is. And if they're really interested, if they really care about you, they're not just going to listen to you rant and agree with you and ask if there's anything they can do. they're going to push back and challenge you to be the best version of yourself and tell you where you're making mistakes with your thought process, or completely blind to something that for them is clearer because they don't have the fog of their own life experience.
Right. You're the CTO here. I'm so curious how you feel about the differences between us and let's say your generation or his.
This is actually, it's dark comedy from my stand-up set, but it is from my stand-up set.
Let it rip.
I do not believe that humanity has a technology problem, which is what a lot of people talk about. They think that humanity has a technology. I think technology has a humanity problem. A screwdriver is just a screwdriver. It's a tool. You could use it to build a baby's crib, or you could stab somebody in the eye socket with it. It's about how you use the tool.
Yeah.
So
long as you make
what is it?
As long as you build more cribs and do more stabbing.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Stabbing's frowned upon.
Is it more of a reflection of our base human urges in nature, that like 80% plus of the internet is like adult content and like streaming stuff and entertainment and gambling and all this different? It's an echo that companies essentially spend billions of dollars in consumer behavioral psychology, which we also study consumer behavioral psychology for our own needs and things like that. But the fact that those things are essentially turned back against us, right? They understand the brain science behind what it's going to mean to influence an entire generation of people, to become the only two industries that call their customers users are technology companies and drug dealers, by the way. So it's not a coincidence that there's an addiction factor, dopamine release, norepinephrine, serotonin, that's all involved in the game of getting people more into it. So I think that 5 years difference 100 years ago wasn't a lot in the grand scheme, right? When you ever see Neil deGrasse Tyson do the whole, and the entire history of our existence is on December 31st on the calendar of the universe, and you're like, whoa. It's like that. 5 years now is such a larger 5 years in terms of the impact on that generation and society because of the acceleration. We just keep on spinning that playground wheel faster and faster. So many people are hanging on as the big kid on the playground is like trying to make people fly off and break bones. And some people are. I think it's strange that we live in a world now where like Googling is for old people suddenly, which is a weird thing to say out loud now that AI is doing what it's doing, right? The world isn't for what we've allowed to have happen. The world isn't for people who can't tell the difference between something that is likely to be either an AI generated image or video or some kind of, fake representation of something online. Like we have like some kind of weird trusted knowledge generationally. We're like the taste testers for what's safe to click on for our parents and our grandparents in society, right? Because there's this digital native recency built knowledge on how to have those interactions. So I think that can play as a strength when you're talking about being innovative and trying to scale your business and make more informed decisions. I mean, I give very scientific personality trait driven breakdowns to help influence our hiring decisions and the recommendations of who our team leaders bring onto their teams based on the fit and the way that those people work together.
Wow.
And there's also predatory people who will use different kinds of means to get in touch with even the most private of people to invade their space or make people feel unsafe in terms of how they're stalked.
Right.
This is your show. However, Mr. Rondi, have you noticed a difference in now, again, not coming back into the business, but there's now new players. There's now like people that actually stayed in and did well at that time because there were people leaving that used tech and AI. And I remember I went to an event for Brett Sikora about 3 or 4 months ago. Excuse me. And the people that I was talking to, the lenders, they have the nice watch.
Yep.
They have the the Gucci. They got the same Ferragamo loafers.
Right.
Sorry to every lender out there that has the same pair. It's like it's like day one. You get your first check. You go get a salary.
It's a uniform.
Yeah.
It's a uniform.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and they're talking like money and how much what they're doing and it's like the same thing over and over again. Where I was like, I'm either gonna drink myself to death or to oblivion or like I have to go home.
Right.
So it's like the same kind of avatar, and I don't mean that in any sort of condescending way, but then you have somebody like your father who has done all of that time, has done all of the events, has shaken the hands, knows everybody, but maybe because now he's busy or he's doing other things or maybe he's on the golf course because he deserves to be, he loses that little bit of a touch. And just because you get this guy with the nice shiny watch, all the things, now our generation's like, I want to work with this, I'm going to give this guy my business. I want to be like him. I want the Ferrari. I want these things. So I guess the roundabout question there is like the generational gap. do you find it hard to work with agents like us because there's more of not like us, but our age? Because there's more of us coming up.
Yeah. So first thing I think of when you talk about the uniform, the brand that people want to convey, that watch, the car, all that good stuff, that's fine. If that's who you really want to be, then commit to it. I don't care. There was a time when I was branding myself consciously, and it was always around appearance, meaning was I going to have a collared shirt on or was I going to put a suit on? And I always liked to suit up. And I loved suiting up, watching other people, my peers, without a tie on. And then when the ties left and then there was just jacket, and they had no jacket. So I was always aware of that and intentionally would like to build that. I see the younger generation, to answer your question, and what they tend to defer to, which is the easier stuff, was, let me put on something flashy. Let me try to make up for the things I don't really know.
Yeah.
Which they don't know the business. They don't know the mortgage financing business and the accountability and the buybacks and the recourse of things. And some of that's not their fault. Some of that's their, their shop and how they're trained and how they're surrounded with whomever they're surrounded with, right? So all they learn is say this, do this. If you're confronted with this, then say this, then do this, and just close the deal and give it to me and I'll close it. Yep. Okay, so you become just a function of that. You really need to learn your craft. Your craft is, well, what is real estate? Where is the value of real estate? What does it really mean emotionally for somebody first? Let's establish that. I know you want a $2 million property overlooking wherever and having okay, I get that, but let's back up. Right. Let's understand where you really are. And the reason I personally feel, and this is something that John and I talked about, in hopes of speaking with Ryan at some point, but doesn't look like he's going to pop in here. But
he just magically shows up,
and that's fine. But one of the things that I've always felt was completely separating me from a lot of very successful real estate agents was the finance piece. Mm-hmm. I've bought real estate. I've sold real estate. I've done it multiple times over. I built homes ground up, right? And I financed them. If you don't have that financing component, it's a little bit of a misnomer in the umbrella of saying, I know real estate. So I've had enough of that experience that it always defers back to understanding, which was my craft, and to the point of younger people today, they have to understand what financing is really about to begin with before you can just go off recklessly and saying, yeah, you can afford that. Just make the payment.
Yeah.
It's not a lease payment on a car. It's a huge.
Yeah, I think that's the transition to becoming somebody's real estate advisor, not just their agent, right?
Yep.
We talk about every single person that not every single person, but most people have somebody in their life that's like an attorney, a doctor, maybe a dentist, hopefully, unless you live in London. Like a CPA, maybe a tech person you would go to, and then who's that person who's protecting you with how few times the average person's going to transact on a home in their life? Mm-hmm. Who is protecting you from making a mistake that you cannot afford to make?
How do you instill that in your agents here?
Yeah, we talk about how one of the things that Serhant does best is to empower your brand with ours, right? And what does that really mean? Is it means that we're combating a statistic, a very specific one, among other things. 4 out of 5 people, which sounds more impressive than 80%, but so 4 out of 5 people forget their real estate agent's name within 3 years of a transaction.
Wow.
Okay. We are fighting that to make sure that people cannot forget you by helping you build up your brand and your value, because what'll happen is anytime they or somebody close to them is involved in something that has a financial element to it and it's real estate related, they should be involving you, even if it's not leading to a sale or a transaction. Having that non-transactional relationship with your relationships is what causes them to flourish and people to call you and rely on you in this way.
And treat you like a friend.
It puts you in the position to guard them from harm in these ways.
Yeah, sure.
So you can't win a game that you're not on the field playing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of that is helping our agents build their value and also shift that perspective in their clients' minds on involve us, because this is something that's supposed to be a financial instrument for building real estate portfolio, building real estate wealth, or just making sure that you're not putting yourself in a situation where you can cause yourself financial ruin the same exact way.
Shift the client's perspective on like, this is a relationship. This isn't a
but
one-and-done
it's also
transaction.
putting confidence in their step, where it's like, we want you to think of yourself as this additional pillar in people's lives.
Got it. Yeah, you're an integral part of my life. If I'm 30 years old and I buy my first property, hopefully this isn't the last one I buy. And I want to make sure I want to be able to go to one person and one person only. Yeah. When I am 40, 50 years old, I don't have to worry about finding somebody else because I trust that you actually care about me and my family and my finances and all these things.
If you gave with no intention to receive, people can feel that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the same way that you have your accountant for a lifetime, or a financial advisor, or your, the people that you go to that you trust your entire life. It's the same way that in real estate, and people forget this, that's what we're here to do. We're here to be guide you, whether it's just questions, advice, all of the above. And one thing that I did when I made the move, because I lost my pipeline, right? Like I lost my sellers, active people that I was working with. It was really tough because I built relationships with them and I spent a lot of time. And so one of the things after Coyne got me to get out of like the victim fallacy that I had in my head, right? Like, what was me, was to go through my phone, my contact list from A to Z, and just ask people how they were doing. Yep. Hey, I'm thinking about you. Like, right? Like, hey, I know you said you were going to, get the Let Out concert. How was it? Right? Like remembering those little subtle details without any of the tech and the AI is what really helps you build that rapport and those relationships. Or remembering someone's birthday. Like that is a little bit challenging when, 30 years in the business.
Well, you got a lot going on too, but you're going to get those relationships they're incubating. They're still there. The good ones are still there.
Yes. But it's challenging when, you pivot, or even like what you guys are doing with the podcast. It's challenging, right? Because you're in that routine, you have the relationships, and then within the blink of an eye, something could change. Yeah. Right? Or now you guys aren't working together every day.
Here's the great part about where you are, and you're surrounded with this guy, so you have literally
and Ryan.
He's more.
Well, but he's the background on my phone for a reason. Wow.
Why am I the background on your phone?
You know why?
Because you put it on there.
No, he didn't. Oh. I did it myself. I have a few.
Good. That's how much he respects and cares about you.
Maybe we need to take another picture.
Maybe I have to change my background now.
Okay.
Before you have to go do the mozzarella, I want to show you the AI. You will be.
Well, let's get into. So I want to get into, Dan, what you think.
I want to just finish one
go ahead.
thought.
Yep, go ahead.
Because what I was going to say is, you touched on earlier one thing. You went to Weichert. First thing, I got the job. Okay, great. You're reinventing yourself. If you're starting over today, think about what an advantage it is to start today with all this experience. And so there's nothing weighing you down from behind you. It's all through the front windshield of the car. You're going. Yeah. And what a huge advantage it is to be able to reinvent, start over with everything you've already learned for yourself.
We talked about that, and that was hard. That was hard to contextualize and take comfort in at first.
Yeah,
and actually believe in. Right, it's when you're going through something, it's really hard to say like, okay, everything happens for a reation, but it's like, okay, does this have to happen? Right. What's the reason for this? I can't see this. And Coyne was able to kind of point me in the right direction of like keeping me occupied with learning and with getting better and mastering all aspects of the craft and learning new things too, and not thinking that I know everything. Yeah. Hey, I did great, at a boutique firm on Long Island. I know everything. That's I think a big problem with people our age, where it's like, you have a little bit of success in something, and it's like now I'm an expert, or now I know everything.
Did you have that attitude when you left?
Absolutely not. I left because I knew I needed to learn more. I was seeking out the knowledge. I wanted to learn from all these things. I wanted to learn from Ryan, how Ryan manages 5 different startups within one startup. How does he have a sanity? How does he have a wife, his daughter? How does he manage his time? I had no time management at all. I was burning myself out. My parents were, I didn't even see them, right? And like,
you had theoretical time management. Like you knew what you needed to do, but there wasn't some of the structure and some of the reinforcement, not even necessarily systems, because you had a lot of standard operating procedures and things like that. But I think that there was a reinforcement that was needed to let you actually do those things in a less anxious way. I find that a lot of people with your ceiling and with your resources and different kinds of things at this point in your career, because I've seen it a lot in 22 years that I've been doing this, that anxiety can be paralyzing. But the right environment that puts enough oxygen in the room. We talk about this concept, oxygen masking, right? We talked about this a lot. So and when you're on an airplane and there's a safety briefing, right? They say when the oxygen masks come down, please put your own mask on before helping another person.
Right.
So he also had this inclination as part of all this different stuff that he wants to be helping this person and helping that person and putting himself out there here. And I said, Dan, oxygen mask. And he says, what the fuck is that? But now I catch him saying it to other people is like, you're only good to other people
Help
if you can
first.
breathe.
Right.
It's something that's another one of those concepts.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you
Good
know,
stuff.
that's that technology human relationship thing is like, I'm passionate about it because frequently it's like, whoa, we don't need to dive all the way into the tech yet. Let's get right first in terms of our approach to this. And then all the
Good for
things
you
can
guys.
actually help us.
It almost makes you feel like bad for the people that are like you but don't have the environment like you have right now. You know what I mean? There's probably more often than not are people that have this drive and motivation to be hyper successful and they can do it, but they let their anxiety get in the way, and now they have all these things going on, all these balls in the air, and they drop them all because they don't have anybody to tell them like, hey, catch one first.
Nobody ever gave them permission to feel those things and that it's okay, but you still have to keep going. A lot of people talk about that you need to eliminate these things from yourself or your mind or whatever it is. You just need more passengers in the car so it's a less lonely drive. That's all it is.
And it's also having the stomach for it. Like when I was making this decision, I had a thought of maybe even just doing my own thing, right? Like as if I knew what I was doing, or to have the stomach for entrepreneurship. There's a statistic that in our industry, both finance and or lending and sales, the amount of burnout, the amount of depression, the amount of mental health illness, because you truly wake up every day without a paycheck. Yeah. Unless you're, a short W-2 with, benefits, but you're still commission based. Sure. So I'm waking up today. I wake up every day. Like I have nothing in my bank account. I have no deals. Even if I have deals closing, I need to worry about next month. Yep. And it becomes taxing, and it becomes, I'm sure in the 30 years of wisdom and experience you have, there's times where you had to put in your whole life, you had to put the kids first. You had to make sacrifices. You probably didn't even let them know that you.
No, of course not.
Right. And
you reset to zero. I
Yes.
reset to zero every day.
Yep.
At least that's something I've always visualized. As great of a day, you have an opportunity to start and finish your day. Everything in between, in the middle, you have to manage. But you control how you start. You control how you end.
and how you show up.
I see it differently. Not to be contrarian, but similar to like a person who works out a lot, which I obviously don't.
He does.
There you go. But you may be putting that really heavy weight down at the end of every day, but your muscles have gotten stronger that the next time you go to pick it up, it's going to be better and easier to be able to lift it above your head.
Well, that's what repetitions are for.
No, for sure. But I don't see it as a setback to zero. I see it as that you're starting over on the process that's going to bring in the money, but I don't specifically see it as a complete reset. I see it as something that you've built muscle mass to be able to do it easier next time.
When I say reset to zero in my mind, it's like a car. I'm at a light. I'm zero. I can go 20, 30, 40, 50. I can go 100, but at some point I got to stop again. And I'm going to continue with that as a car would, as a football player would reset themselves. The play is 5-6 seconds. Reset to zero, right? So that's why, you go hard and as fast as you want, but you have to know where you're starting, right? So that's all. That's when I say reset to zero.
Yeah, I follow.
I don't mean that you are back to square one. No, I just mean there's something for everyone that they can associate a muscle memory with. And whatever that is, that was always something for me personally that I equated to, let's go. Let's refire it up. Let's go again. We just did this, wrap it up. Let's go do another one. This one was okay. We're going to make the next one better.
Ryan, for a CTO, you're very emotionally intelligent.
You're a very good judge of character.
I'm intrigued by it, honestly.
Yeah.
I never thought.
Maybe you have
I thought a
him on your
CTO. You
podcast by
can tell
yourself.
you're hyper intelligent, like just
Yeah.
by the way you speak.
Yeah.
But I would expect you to be almost like a robot. Like I care about the tech and the tech only. The
It's already
people
levitates.
get taken care of by somebody else. I know that Serhant has a ton of advanced tech. Can we start talking about some of that?
He's like a magician when you say his name.
He's here. We just said
There's
the
the
name.
man.
What's up?
Perfect.
Thank you for
Perfect
coming out.
timing.
Yeah.
This is Mr. Rondi over here. John, this is
Hey, Ryan.
And I'll say hi, bro.
Yeah.
So my dad actually, he was a guest and he's now leaving. He had a hard stop at 11:30 and he is actually leaving. I didn't expect him to
Yeah, I gotta leave.
do that, but
go make
okay.
the-
I've never had a guest leave mid podcast, but
Well,
we
guess
make an
what?
exception for you
But you were
because of
saying
how
such
special you
nice
are.
things about me. I don't
Right.
want you to go.
I want to say a lot
That's
more
fine.
nice
I
things.
want to get, and Dan wants to pull something up really quick. I want to get your thoughts and predictions on the real estate / mortgage space in 2025, or what you expect to see.
Okay, so here's what I know about real estate, the umbrella, mortgage financing, the whole thing. I know what it was yesterday, and I know what it is today. Only two things you can count on: yesterday and today, in regards to really what is going on. Right, tomorrow, next week, next year, I'm speculating that because there's going to be more inventory available, people are going to begin to start loosening up emotionally. There's this red wave, whether you like it, whatever side of the bowl you're on, it's what it is. And there's a lot of good momentum, I think, that's coming from it in the larger scope of things. Even if your person didn't win this
Right,
presidential race. I have really, I worry less about that. My point is rates are going to come back down. The stock market is going to do a little bit better. The economy is going to have its chance to reboot, restart, and get up and going again. I'm guessing within 8 to 12 months out, I don't think much sooner than that, you'll start to see interest rates really hit the consumer. So 25 basis points, maybe outside a year, we get a half. I'm not even sure. Yeah. But I'm certain that you're gonna see that change first with regards to interest rates loosen up, and then the real estate market is already becoming such that I think people are warming themselves up to the fact that, yeah, you know what, I think it is time. Let me just bite the bullet. I'm not going to rent again. Let me just take my current position in my equity. I'm not going to refinance it. I want to move to Florida. Let me color in. So those conversations are occurring in my world with my friends. And so if I'm 58 years old, 60 years old, and they're talking like that, that means something.
Yeah.
That's going to ripple real time. So that's where I would say I'd hang my hat in 2025.
Certain places are crazy. Like the rates in Denver are a mile high.
I know, isn't it? It's almost like they planned it.
Listen, if you bet 3 for 10 coin, you're in the Hall of Fame, brother. You know, you had to have one when you missed one time.
It's okay.
So,
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers your question. I don't know what anyone else's opinion really is.
And listen,
or what
I
you
can
guys
always
feel
get you.
about it.
I can always get you back on the podcast. It's okay. I'm a phone call away.
We are going to
I don't-
actually, this is your show, but we're actually right now going to get you guys back on
Let's
the
see.
state.
Let's see
Do
what we
this
got
real
here.
quick because
I
I'm
was
going to
doing
give you.
this.
I'm
Okay.
gonna
So
give
we
you-
have
I
Dennis
got
is
we got a
5
shot clock
minutes.
with your dad, so you can make
This
them
is
mozzarella.
insane.
Yeah, shot clock.
We're saving your, we're helping relationships between father son.
We're having a virtual therapy session right
And
now.
this is okay. So what I just did, this is Coyne's teachings. What I just did is I went to both of you guys' LinkedIn's.
Oh.
And I used a tool here if I wanted to sell you something, right? So you need to call John, email John, whatever it may be, right? It tells me that I'm making a sales pitch to you. So you tell me if this is true.
Yeah, let's see.
Mr. Rondi, if I wanted to work with you or get you to agree to something, use an energetic, assertive tone. Highlight the competitive advantage of my product. Speak with high energy and answer questions directly. Place a high value on being time efficient rather than filling it up with small talk.
That's a big one.
Yep. What I shouldn't do is be overly friendly. Be assertive and push back when I need to. Don't suggest, sugarcoat, or use vague, overly optimistic language to describe the value of my product. Don't give in-depth product descriptions without explaining the bottom line impact. And don't take their schedule lightly. Perfect. Respect the call's length and end on schedule. That's like insane.
Perfect.
That's pretty fucking funny.
So it tells. But hold on. Now let's do really fast. Watch this. Now I'm gonna go to your junior. If I want to make a sales pitch to you, you're a motivator on the disc chart. So keep the energy light with jokes and an upbeat attitude. Send visual aids like graphics.
Yes,
charts,
yeah. I do love aids.
Yeah, Speak with expressive, colorful language. Keep the conversation focused and aims at a specific outcome. What I shouldn't be doing is don't focus on details at the start. Start with a strong connection.
Very true.
Don't overfill the call with lots of analysis and data before setting the high-level vision.
Very true.
Don't prioritize the cost over short-term emotions and relevant parties, and don't place focus on outdated procedures and focus on future possibilities. So now what I'm going to do is I download the two of these, and it goes. I can even ask what kind of car you guys drive.
This is insane.
That's great.
So with Junior, keep the energy light with Joe. Oh, we just did that one. Behavior, feeling comfortable speaking to strangers. You do. Talk to you. Can talk
I would hope. At this point, I would hope so.
You can talk to a wall. Independently generate your own ideas. You like doing that. You like to create a high energy work environment. If you want John's buy-in, Junior, you need to show enthusiasm. Focus on the big idea. Don't get lost in the details. He'll lose interest. Get to know John before making your pitch and appeal to his emotions. Senior.
This is hilarious.
We haven't even started yet. This is gonna be quick though. Senior, for you. What on here? Sorry. Okay.
This is me still? Or
Now this is a senior. He's a DI like me. Rare. That's actually kind of cool. You need to be big picture, driven, and creative. You'll be creative. You'll be similarly creative with a lot of imagination, enthusiasm. Sell to you, knowing that while we both have a knack for innovative ideas, you'll have to be more decisive, assertive than you.
Yeah.
Schedule a time so they don't forget. Share excitement. Okay.
Good.
So now what I do is I put this into the ChatGPT cognitive behavioral therapist that Coyne built out. We'll get to that.
Okay. You built this? So I'm a motivator, quote unquote, and he's a driver.
Driver A personality. I know that myself. I've taken these.
We were able to determine that without asking you to take an assessment, though.
That's insane.
I just did that while you were.
There are
While you
40.
were rapping, but you were giving the rates talk about Denver. Nope. I just did that. That was less than 4 minutes. No. And so look,
No one's ever clicked like read the terms and conditions before you hit I agree on something.
I just did that.
Right? So there's 43,000 data broker websites on the internet, just in general, collecting all this information about you, everything you look at, everything you do, reading your Gmail, reading everything. That we're able to pull those data points and be able to pull them in as personality traits. I've spent the better part of the last 13 years kind of honing the relationship between psychology and technology to be able to service humans better with what technology can offer, because the average close rate in the real estate industry is 65 out of every 1,000 leads. So that's another big KPI that we're looking to combat, so that our agents are going in prepared, kind of like Pacino finding the gun behind the toilet in The Godfather. If you can go in the conversation knowing enough about who you're talking to calibrate before the conversation starts, you're going to have a higher efficacy.
This is insane.
Yeah, really.
This is
That's
what
why
they're
I
doing
gotta
therapy.
go because my mind's. Boom.
I'm fixing something quick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
They're
he's gonna
fixing
fix
this
you. He's gonna
podcast.
fix it right now.
So what I did was I uploaded both of your profiles into my ChatGPT. I said, can you please review these two things and let me know when you're ready. So it just did it. John Jr., you're adaptable, energetic, enthusiastic, whatever. Right? It gives me the sales. This is in seconds, right? And John Sr.
Independent.
Skip
Yeah.
small talk, let him drive the pace, all the things. So now what I'm going to do
This is insane.
is how do I get them both to get out of their own way, their own hard-headed way, Italian way, both thinking that they know better or best, while also dealing with the father-son dynamic of running a podcast together, whatever, and dealing with father-son dynamic. They're watching you, so please make this good.
No, wait.
that a good prompt?
Did the spell check matter?
It doesn't. It knows I'm a 3.
I'm just happy that you're using my teachings.
This is insane.
So now this is someone in the back.
Now
room.
keep in mind we
Downstairs. No.
keep in mind the pot.
Look, he got quiet for the first time in an hour. Look, it's him. Okay, so
This
ready?
is going to be beneficial to the overall Johnny Drinks brand, though.
All right,
Less
Father.
about the podcast.
Oh, I like the first sentence already. Okay. Acknowledge his experience, wisdom, and leadership as a father. and
seasoned business
You
partner.
have been acknowledged.
Emphasize
Thank
senior's
you.
ability to lead and make calculated decisions. For John Jr., highlight his fresh ideas, energy, enthusiasm for the future. Validate his role as the innovator who can bring in a new perspective to the table. Together, recognize that both of them bringing their unique strengths, reinforce that their differences are complementary, and when combined, can be a competitive edge. Define the shared goals. Why it's key, because both of you guys likely have different visions, but shared goals, and unify them. Use these common aspirations to ground decision making.
This is a great preview that we
Facilitate a
can.
strategic meeting focused solely on aligning goals for the business. Ensure the discussion focuses on what's best for the company for the both of you, rather than individual preferences. Document these shared objectives and revisit them during difficult decision-making conflicts. Implement structured comm. Appeal to his decisive nature by structuring the conversation to be goal-oriented. For John Jr., make room for his collaborative, enthusiastic, innovative ideas, ensuring he feels heard and engaged. Action plan, weekly check-ins. Designate time for you guys to do discussions on purpose.
Yeah, keep reading. Yeah, this is good.
See what he's doing?
you already know.
You see what he's doing right now?
So
You see what he's doing?
I'm all set. I know what I need.
So
He's reading this and
Dan
saying,
and Joe
I'm
have
right,
to
I'm
do
right,
that.
I'm right, I'm right. You see it. You see
No,
it
okay,
live.
so
You see it
okay.
live time.
I got it.
Right.
I got it.
John Sr.
I got.
is
Yeah.
reading this.
And saying he's
Saying-
right.
I think
right.
we've succeeded
not
in
right.
creating
I
a
got
lot
it.
of curiosity for next time.
my role and responsibilities pretty
How do
much
we
locked down.
hold him accountable?
Yeah, there we go.
Listen,
This is great. My dad is chomping at the bit to leave, but this is awesome.
because mom's calling me, everyone's calling
Call
me.
her. Call her. Tell
No,
her I said
it's
hello.
just that-
We'll bring her pizza.
Hey, you're live on the podcast.
Well, okay, ready? Here, this is it's great. Like, and this is within seconds, and it gives. I'll send this to you.
So you do this for like perspective.
I do this for girls on Hinge.
Okay, right.
Okay, so we don't recommend using it for girls
look.
on Hinge.
Look.
This is
we,
why you
we,
built this.
we use it to
Look.
help our agents
Sarah's
build out
love
their
language. Look at the
teams,
screen.
build out their
Sarah's love
business
language.
plans, all kinds
No,
of
that is phenomenal.
We use it responsibly. I can't speak for him. This is what happens when you hand somebody a screwdriver. I'm putting together he's
Full
stabbing
circle.
people in the eye
Full
socket.
circle
This is
moment.
what I was talking about.
Wait, where did it go?
I don't know. Where'd you do it?
Where did it go?
You're
I think
messing around.
where did he go? Is out the door is what he
No,
was.
you lost the project.
Yeah, where did it go?
I can't help it.
Coin, get it out.
Where
It's
did
right
it
here.
go?
I got it. Okay, so I asked it now for you to not be. John Jr. is reading this. It even takes my spelling errors. It knows.
I see that.
It knows I type like a 3-year-old. How do we hold them accountable? The accountability shared goal. John, okay, action plan. Use agreed upon shared business goals as benchmarks. That's not going to work hold on. That's not going to work either.
Third party input would work. That is what we need.
Third party, but yeah, I agree.
We do
Yeah,
need
seeking
that.
the
absolutely.
counsel of others is very common with people.
Why it works.
You-
John
You
Sr.
will
will respond.
benefit by that.
John Sr.
You will benefit.
You will
with
benefit
that.
from this. This is for you. John Sr. will wait. It even says it. John Sr. will respond better to facts or team input rather than feeling called out. Senior.
Yes.
John,
Correct.
you're the best at handling X. Let someone else set some benchmarks so the rest of us can, on this side of the table, can feel
all
best
good.
supported when
Right,
needed.
right.
It plays to his strengths while making accountability explicit.
Perfect.
Implement public and private recognition.
So you can see the power
is
of
great.
something like this when there's an agent or a team leader or even a junior that's looking for which team they should join and stuff like that. That when they're asking like, hey, maybe I've misfired on some decisions in the past. What do you think I should do now? I say, let's get more scientific about the way to build out your
Oh,
team.
this is gold.
You know,
great, man.
things like that.
No, this is.
And a bunch of other purposes, but
It's clear.
even conflict resolution.
Ready? This is the last one.
Can we role play?
Watch this. This is the crazy. And it's
I ask it to role play a conversation between the two of them about an argument.
And it's gonna like spit out what
Yep.
they think we're gonna say.
Can you role play as if?
Yeah, I
between the
gotta
two of
go.
them- No, hold on. This is the last one.
This is it. 5 more. You have
argument?
30 more seconds.
An argument
Sure.
about what like running the pod together.
No.
Give us up.
business idea.
I tried getting you out of
see
here.
how
Can you
far
role play
I
between the
have
two
to
of them
go.
an argument about a business idea? Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just
sure.
he hits it. I want to do the voice.
He's been pretty clear that he needs to leave. You know.
I know, but he's still here.
Unbelievable.
Only because he's being
I
polite.
got a 45-minute ride.
okay.
Yeah, you're good.
No, I gotta go.
No, I know.
Oh.
It said to respect his schedule. I'm trying to do that, Dan.
That was. See, you're taking.
I'm trying to get this podcast back where it needs to be. Is what I'm trying
Because
to do.
it goes back to the accountability piece for me. If someone's expecting
Can we
me
role play,
at
please?
a certain time,
And you don't make excuses to
Can we-
your clients. So you don't like to say that I'm late because some guy kept me on ChatGPT for 3 days.
well, yeah, I'm on chat GBT. I gotta
this
even
is
try to
great.
remember GBT. What's GBT
P,
stand?
P, P.
GPT.
What's G?
Generative Predictive Transformer.
What is it?
Generative Prediction Transformer.
Predictive transformer.
All right. You can leave. I'll take a listen to it, and then I'll write notes for you. Dad's gone. Let's talk about some real estate, maybe. We're at Serhant. You know, that's what you guys
sounds
do.
Sure.
What is the biggest difference, Dan, here versus where you were / anywhere else?
Oh man.
The biggest difference here is the people, right? So is Coyne and it's Ryan, Renee, the C-level, the local leaders. So today's our holiday party. So people are flying up from, I see Florida over there, North Carolina, I see Arizona. I mean,
whole East Coast except for like Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont is represented today.
and it's all the top agents within those, local marketplaces that are here to learn from, share best practices, all of the above, the content. So like I had my own content team for a while, but now to be able to use, it's called Serhant CTO Suites. I like Arthur, wherever he just floated to, is a direct hire from downstairs.
Got it.
So it's Ryan's content team is now my content team, which is the most followed brand in real estate, right? Like,
So just to give context to that for a second. So Serhant Studios, an award-winning film production team, they win awards in places where that's not even a real estate category. So we're really proud of that for all different kinds of creative approaches. That's been really successful where we've been able to directly staff members of that team. So New York City, the Hamptons, Miami, places like that. And the demand is really high for our standards of excellence. So we did experiments where we would take a local production resource that maybe an existing team or agent had a relationship with, and essentially train them to our standard and give them different kinds of materials. We weren't super satisfied with how that went. And people were looking for that turnkey production extension of what was already working. So we essentially started hiring in those local markets. So Dan's referring to Long Island. Our studio suite member there, Arthur, is somebody who we vetted. It was a couple hundred different applications.
300 applicants.
300 applicants. We provide, test assignments and things like that to see if we catch the vibe that's good. And they're an employee of us. That's not somebody that an agent or a team or an office is hiring and that we just kind of collaborate with. Yeah. They're a Serhant Studios employee. Access to all the resources and the training. They spend time here in New York City. When we staffed a person in Orlando for our Orlando growth, they spent a week in the New York City office with us here in person before then deploying for good in Orlando.
And they purchased. I mean, Arthur has probably the equivalent of like $100,000 worth of film equipment that was purchased by Serhant.
Allegedly.
But that camera alone, that camera is used for like that he has, the bazooka one, is used for like low budget like films. Yeah. And they did all of it. They trained him. They're on their W-2. So like between the content, between the social media, I've had over 1 million views in the last 2 months since being here. On Instagram. The education, like the fact of Ryan even coming down here and he was actually in like a serious meeting just to do that, and like even made the joke like, oh, for Dan, anything like that is like it adds a ton of value. Having Coyne, in my head and also in my computer and my 2 phones. I was waiting to see him like deny that. He didn't even see it. He knows, But it's changed my life in many, many ways for the better.
Was it an intimidating environment when you walked in first?
I'm still intimidated. You don't see me shaking over here, but it's still intimidating because this is a different level of you've gotten probably used to it now, like with Dana White and Kevin Hart. Like you went from you guys making TikToks and stuff to now you're touring Dana White's. Like a private office and like, getting Kevin Hart's tequila bottle sent to you. Like, and you're my age. So it's like that shift and like having to be a little bit more like confident and poised. But it's the way that people speak is different. The way that people communicate, the way they act. It can be very intimidating. Like the first couple of times I met Ryan, I don't even know what I said. I blacked out.
Really? It messes up like even job interviews and stuff. Like where we're hiring like really, really talented, brilliant people that on interview and call like number 1 and 2, we're just like, oh my goodness, we're so impressed with this person. And we're like, okay, Ryan, we're going to have the call number 3 where you get to meet them and stuff like that. And we have to remind them, I'm like, he is a regular person, like do not, because people get shaky because he has this electromagnetism. He has his own gravitational pull. The charisma is so 20 out of 10. That it has a tendency to throw people off, even other people that are noteworthy, because he has this commanding presence of taking all the oxygen, but unintentionally. Yeah. He is such a regular guy. Like I've been working with him over a decade, and there are times where I'm reminded when there's like really high pressure situations that, oh my goodness, there's people in the room who aren't jaded yet to some extent. And maybe I could level set with them, reminding them that he's just as human. He can be wrong. Let's not have the authority bias here that just because he runs it, he wants to be challenged. He wants to be pushed and told that he's wrong, but we can do something better,
So it's not intentionally set up for like, let's make sure we make these new guys sweat.
No. We don't want to hide that if there's something that is counterintuitive to leadership potential. They don't help people through the process in a way of fortifying their character and their ability to be in a high pressure situation. We want to know that.
Sure.
But it's not intentionally a pressure cooker, no.
And I'll give you like prime examples is, I mean, how does he have time for all the things? And he will respond back. Like he was responding back to me within seconds. Like how I can't, my notifications right now are absolutely like, I don't have that discipline, right? He just sends one word, like he sends hi, LOL, or OMG. Those are like the 3 texts you get from him.
Maybe to you, I get longer ones.
Yeah,
It's like whatever.
Fair. Or like if you're sitting with him in person, right? If you have a 15-minute Zoom, like you'll be in his office. He will literally go, okay, I got to hop on a Zoom. And you're literally sitting, like you're at the, and he's just, hey guys, how you doing? And you're like sitting there like,
Harvard Business School did a study on his time management.
Yeah, bro.
Like for real. They actually invited him up to Harvard Business School and he gave like a whole thing. He's got a thing on his wall up there, like emeritus kind of stuff. It's crazy.
Another example, not to interrupt you,
Yeah.
is this is what he does, and you're gonna do it, right? So if we were to role play like we're just talking, right? How you doing today?
Good. You?
See, you fell for it. You fell for it within 3 seconds. So he gets quiet because he's analyzing and processing what you're saying.
There's a study there, but
to respond,
Yeah.
as opposed to us being younger and like Jersey, Long Island, where we're foaming at the mouth, not really actually listening. We're just ready to like.
Yeah.
So the awkward silence of 7 seconds, you just did it. Where like I'll say something and I'm like, and I just like word vomit because silence makes it awkward.
Yeah, I mean, taking it back to real estate and your original question, and not to speak for you about the experience of being here, but I think that one of the things that sets us apart is, of course, it's fearless leader's example, right? Kim Jong Serhant sets the tone. Okay, if you ask him about deals, like he can tell you specific addresses and units and details of deals that he did in 2008. Yeah,
really?
Still, oh my God, it is uncanny. His brain, he has made an active decision that this is so important that he needs this information to be stored up there. And like, he'll ask me a lot, like, what else is going on with the company? And I'm like, nothing that I have to fill your head with. I got it all under control, or things like that. Because I try to, we all, I shouldn't just say all of us try to be segmented about what will fill his head with and what actually needs his brain. So what he is dedicated to doing is helping everybody grow. If you were to right now, if you were to say, hey, I have a buyer or a seller that is on the line, that they are an email, a text, or a phone call from you away from either being moved over the line as far as confidence on something, or that it's even real that we get to work together, or whatever endorsement of this, or that you're willing to be involved, whatever. He drops what he's doing and he does it. And then he'll just send you back a screenshot of that he reached out to the person to validate whatever.
Within a minute.
Yeah, I mean, he did it for me years ago, even before we started this company as a group. I had other clients, and I would say, hey, would you mind shooting this person a validation thing? And he would send me a screenshot within 30 seconds of reaching out, giving his cell number and saying any questions, whatever.
It's crazy.
So, and even for agents that are new or starting out, like that are here, we have standards of what you need to have done in terms of production and experience to be a principal or a solo agent here. But even if you're on a team, like I remember it was Ilya. When he started out, he was pitching a $4 million townhouse early. Mm-hmm. He had never done anything that was over $1 million before. And he was going up against an agent that had over 20 years experience and that had actually sold that apartment to the current owner like 8 or 9 years prior. So talk about like pressure cooker situation of where you have a lot of odds stacked against you. He asked Ryan what he would do, and if he would say something, he stepped right in, made that listing presentation successful because that person saw that they weren't just at a brokerage with a name on it. They actually had access to, as a partner, the world's greatest salesperson who has all this cachet and built up. So one of the reasons we have that filter, and Dan obviously, of course, is a fantastic partner that we're glad to have. But one of the reasons we have that filter is because the resources that we put back into the agents are something that we need to be guarded about to not accidentally dilute the brand. We're pretty relentless about protecting it.
Dude, he's like a legitimate like celebrity too. Like that's like the weird part is like I don't watch like the Netflix shows. Like I'm not into like the $1 million listing. Ryan knows this, so I don't care. But like to see him in action like at a Mets game and have Margot Robbie coming up to him, and Ryan's just walking, like texting, and she's like, "Hey Ryan, can I take a picture?" And he's like, and I'm literally sitting there like,
Stop.
dude, I swear to God, like times 1,000, but maybe not 1,000 Margot Robbies, but like the owner of the New York Islanders, like UFC, like you fighters, you know, like people come to I'm like, you know what that was? He's like, yeah. I'm like, bro, like, are you what? But like, not in like a facetious way.
He's not jaded about it either. He's dividing his time.
Mr. B, you heard him. He's like, he doesn't even know. Yeah. You know, but and like it's like innocence, and it's really cool and fascinating to watch. And even when I wear like a Serhant sweatshirt or something, right? Like I'm in my local deli and people are like, oh, you know, right? Like,
okay, well, it's funny. Outside perspective, I would assume that the interview process, like if you're a Serhant realtor, you're better than everybody else. That's what my assumption would be, because then you can lean on him. Like, why did, say in that example, the person that has already been with this other agent now flop and go to the Serhant agent?
Because of the analytics, because of the social presence, because of Ryan. Yeah. There's no other company like Douglas Selman or Cumbit, right? Like the owners.
Everyone's got a different reason, right? Everyone's got a different why, right? There are some common ones, right? They want to grow their brand. Sure. They want to grow their exposure. They want a better international reach. They want to.
You're talking about the agent. He was talking about the seller.
Like the reason why that seller
they go with a Serhant agent. I actually don't think that most consumers actually care.
But in that specific example,
I follow. I don't think most people care.
The drinks kicking in.
It's okay. It's okay. It's like you got a little powder on your shirt from whatever you. So I don't think
you went to wipe it off.
Come on.
I don't think. I don't think most consumers actually care about the company that's standing behind it. As long, I've seen it where it comes down to the agent or the broker and what they're going to be able to do. Okay. The other things are nice.
Sure.
Okay. You look at agents that have like 75 or 100 active listings, and they get the opposite thing, which is, why should I work with you? You seem like you're too busy.
Sure. Yeah.
And the best response I think I ever heard as a younger business person in the industry was Maria Babayev. She said in her accent, she says, would you rather work with agent who pulls 72 teeth a year or 72 teeth a day? You know, if I'm a dentist, you know? And I was like, no, I get it. Yeah, I want the guy who does open heart surgeries like all day long every day, you know?
Not his first one.
Yeah, 100%. That experience, as long as you've got the structure around you. So that it segues us to our sponsor, the support that we offer. So I think that when they go on a pitch and they're showing the breadth and the scale of what is here, yes, the exposure, yes, the most followed brand in the industry, the kind of support that they get, that there's an authenticity in their voice. It's very genuine and people can feel it when they talk about the kind of team that's backing them up. You know, so I get CC'd on threads with our agents' clients sometimes where they say, looping in our CTO to help answer that question better. It's happened 2 nights ago. Somebody was asking questions about their exposure and that they thought that they missed the fall season for whatever it was. And I started off with, I want to begin by saying, greetings, ex-family. I want to start by acknowledging the feelings of wonder about what could have been, and empathize with them, connecting with the way that you must feel right now before anything else. As it turns out, your home's exposure, according to our analytics, was exceptionally high, yada, yada, yada. Start with empathy. Don't invalidate their feelings, right? If an agent feels the need that they need to push that button to bring in our integrated marketing and social team, or our director of studios, or our marketing departments, or Ryan, or anybody else here, that's an emergency backstop. But look at the confidence that brings, that they know that they can include anybody from the team to pitch in on that confidence of their client, and that we're not going to let them down. They don't call us to coach us on what to say. They know that by keeping the agent at the center of every experience we're trying to create here, sometimes extends all the way to their clients.
Right.
Giving them that confidence, or coinfidence if I'm involved,
I love that.
Is something that carries over to the way that they communicate about it.
How much more confident do you feel as an agent now, knowing you have that backup to be like, hey, CCing so-and-so?
To be able to have Ryan shoot out a text like within 1 second is like in and of itself an incredible value. To be able to have the analytics, I used to have in my listing presentation, like, hey, why would you work with me? I would say that I had the most followed brand in New York, on Long Island, minus Ryan Serhant. but Ryan Serhant's not coming out here to sell your house. That, like, before I joined, that's what I.
That's hilarious, actually.
That's really funny, right? And but now it's like I like crossed it out. I said, now I'm now I do actually.
Well, I do still think that you have the best real estate. Again, I keep saying it, outside looking in, the real estate content out there is I hate it. It's so obnoxious.
It's brutal.
It's the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
It's either terrible or it's like, this guy has such an ego to him. I don't want to listen to a word he says. And you brought humor into a space that's not that funny in such a way that I'm like, if this doesn't work out for him, he could be an actor or a content creator because he's so good at what he does.
You join the circus,
Dude, like seriously. And I'm sure Ryan saw
Yeah.
some of that. Like I see guys, it's like being innovative in the way you sell. So there's a funny dude on, I don't know what he does. He does like the speed, you ever see the speed tours down in Texas.
Dude, that kid's like 19 years old.
And that's
like doing
fucking
Jake
hilarious.
Paul. Yeah, just doing Jake Paul's house. Like, it's being like a disruptor. And that's actually one of like the Serhant's like core values is like disrupting the industry and just being
Disrupt for good. Yeah.
And being different and being yourself. So like how Ryan just came down here, if you looked at his Instagram, you feel like you know him already. Same way that like, right, if you were to look at mine,
exactly.
my voice sounds like I chewed on cement, like the whole nine.
Right.
I don't have to sell myself necessarily anymore because it's there. And then through the comedy, it brings in the views and all the things. And people already feel like they know me, which is for better or for worse, right?
That parasocial relationship, like I'm sure you have this happen to you too. People feel like they know you because they've watched you for a while, right? It's bizarre.
And
to me.
his dad, bro. If you watch the videos, they're like related. It's the same.
I love it. It's like that family with the sneakers and like all the different father-son like comedy content. I forget the name of the family. They're really hilarious. Anyway, editor cut that part. But yeah, no, I think that there's an interesting aspect of that parasocial relationship that forms.
Yeah.
That you get a feeling, right?
Yep.
Brand is just as much a feeling as it is the details. Is Dan synonymous with innovation and humorous content that brings levity to something that's usually monotonous? Absolutely. Is Serhant the kind of brand that is synonymous with luxury and excellence and having the right approach to things and being disruptive, being that innovative company that's leading in the space? You know, that's what you want to go for, is the feeling people walk away from your brand with, for sure.
So you mentioned, so Serhant is pushing that on his agents to like, you know, be different in whatever way makes you different. If you're not making content, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I know I had Jade on, we talked about how she's very different in her commercial sale approach with being a little more extravagant, the way she dresses and I guess like the showings that she puts on. Yep. It was like so frowned upon and now she's doing it and she's crushing it.
Yeah, you should actually text her. I think she's here.
Jade?
Yeah, like
Jade here?
I think if I'm Coyne's like second pet, like by pet I mean like you know, like he's my teacher.
Right.
Jade was number one.
Oh, get Jade down here. That'd be awesome.
But to like to actually go back to your
First of all, I love my children equally.
Yeah,
I have many projects at this company.
Okay,
and
fair. Sorry to rank myself so
if
high.
you're watching, you could be my next one, you know?
Look at that.
But what you said in the beginning was like almost like intimidating or like imposter syndrome. Dude, my first day here, I brought a duffel bag from my country club. It looked like I had a dead body. It only had one piece of paper. It was like my IC agreement. I walked in here and Jade's got like the Gucci and all the things. And I'm like, oh shit, like I gotta, you know, buy some things.
I wore Zara. She's like, you can't wear that.
Yes,
dude.
dude.
What do you mean?
So,
I joked that we were going to take a blade into the city. She's like, all right, like when do you guys want to go? We're like, no, we're not. Taking a helicopter 10 minutes away. Like, what are you talking about?
They would be dead serious with that.
Yeah.
Like, and so the next time I came in, I bought my first bag ever. I'm like, yo, you know what I'm going to spend? I'm coming back. You know, I'm going to spend.
It's part of it.
I bought a woman's bag, dude.
No.
MCM, white women's bag.
He pretends like it was an accident, but it was a conscious decision.
Wait.
I liked it.
How expensive?
It was like $1,400.
But it was probably nice.
$2,400.
12, 24, who cares?
No, it's nice, but it's a
They're-
fee. It's a
they're
women's
nicer.
purse.
They're
It's
nicer,
a
though.
purse, dude. It's a
Yeah, I
purse.
mean, listen,
and
you
I
know?
don't know how to return anything.
Oh, you still have it?
Yeah.
I wish you had it now.
He needed to
I
buy
do. It's at
something
the
big
hotel.
enough for all his emotional baggage. It didn't fit in the smaller way.
It didn't fit the small one.
But it's tough. I mean, we're a little bit younger, right? And like it can be intimidating when you're going around and these people are, you know, making millions and millions and millions of dollars and not really having that like.
So that was really more my question. I know Ryan wants to see you do super, super well, right? That makes sense. Is it super competitive and intimidating from like the other agents? Because I would assume you walk in, you're like this big shot because you've done so much. If I was another big shot here, I'd be like, who the fuck's this guy trying to take, you know, some food out of my bowl?
But I don't, you know me, like I view myself as like I might as well be the janitor here, you know, type thing.
Right.
Even when I was with my other company, like so I never see myself that way ever.
Yeah.
But I haven't ran into that not one time.
That's not a risk in our company culture.
Yeah.
The way that we've built it, and I consider myself one of the faces of the culture of the company. along with other people.
You are the culture champion.
Listen, being very passionate about it is something I'm proud to not be the only person who's passionate about it. I want to make sure to give credit to where it's due to everybody else that I work with.
This guy's a t-shirt line here called Nerdy Regards.
Really?
I do have a brand. I'm the first person to build a brand off of an email signature. I've had Nerdy Regards as my sign off for like 25 years, and we do sell shirts. And people's kids wear them to school. It's very strange.
That's awesome.
Anyway, but yeah, the culture that we've instilled is one that's of true collaboration. I think it's also another side effect of that. I wouldn't call it a filter, but that screening process to make sure we're bringing in the right human beings that can follow rule number one. There's only one rule: is be a good person, focus on selling real estate, treat each other well, right?
That's it.
So we have extremely strong cross-market collaboration, extremely strong intra-market collaboration. But I will say, since this is something that I expect people want some juice from the peach, the one competitive thing that I ever saw happen here, other than the traffic outside, was the Netflix casting process.
Please explain.
We had no control over it.
Right.
Okay. The producers and the casting directors have control over that. But the perception that some of the agents had was that we had any control over it. And I saw for a very brief moment in time a bit of I want my moments in the sun. I want my time for consideration, because essentially they'll look and cast a wide net, and they'll look and do vibe checks and testing with a large number of people, but they can't follow everybody.
Sure.
For season 1, we shot 680 hours of footage,
Dude,
for 8 50-minute episodes.
that is insane.
Okay. So you're throwing a lot at the wall to see what sticks. And Ryan, being an executive producer on the show, withstanding as far as the different kinds of aspects of the storytelling and things like that, what things we wanted to make sure the company was painted in a positive light, it ended up being extraordinarily real, like too real in some ways. But the only competitive thing, going back to what we were saying, was when people thought that it was a game of choosing winners and losers of who was going to be able to get a shot. We were abstracted from that as far as a company. And we were glad to be abstracted from it, because we don't want to be put in the position of having to choose. And we don't want to be put in a position of telling somebody that they may be fantastic in certain ways, but not for the show, for whatever it is, or be camera, whatever. So that was a time where there was some whisper, some back channel conversations of like, what do I have to do to be interesting enough? Because we'll put out a call for the entire company: make your casting tape, make it 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes long, send it to this email address at World of Wonder, and maybe you'll hear back from somebody. And that created some feelings of people knowing that there's only going to be so many folks standing on that dais.
But I'm sure you and Ryan and the other execs, like, you guys came out and said, look, we have no say in who's casted.
Which is true, too.
The best part about my job is that I can tell the truth to anybody I want, and it's not going to put my job in danger. If I believe that my judgment is to be radically candid and transparent with somebody, to respect their intelligence, and to treat you, technically my customer, as a business partner, that's going to create a better relationship between the two of us. Even under that paradigm where my reputation is of utmost trust and transparency, there's something that in people's brains that they want it to be true.
Yeah.
That something special can be done to make it for them to have an opportunity that wasn't there 5 seconds before.
Yeah, that's so
you can explain it to them, but something's in the brain that's trying to fight, almost like addict behavior, because you're addicted to the exposure. Real estate is such a me business.
Right.
It's a look at me business that when you have the opportunity for millions of people to be looking at you, you're scraping and clawing at it.
I mean, again, like
huge.
A girl like Jade, like, you're now known, well known. If I was, I was like, oh, okay, I got to pick somebody out of a hat. Well, I guess I know her from the show. I know her from her Instagram. Let me just go with her, because I feel like I have an established trust. Like we talked about the one-sided relationship.
Goes
I
both
know
ways.
her. Yeah, you know what I mean?
There are people who don't want anything to do with the cast because of that.
Which is also very interesting.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't want the exposure.
Well, that people, there's a perception that,
okay, most real estate reality shows, and like for me being on one that was in the Hamptons, most of them are fake.
Which one are you
on? Selling Hamptons, I don't know, they changed the name like 4 times. Yeah. But like JB and Fulfrey and all them that I went to the UFC fight with.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that it was scripted or fake, but like it was scripted and fake. And so like that, even just the experience of being like, I'm in one of the episodes bringing like an $8 million buyer. It's my buddy Andrew. The guy can't buy a stick of gum.
Yeah, we didn't pull that. Like ours
that's
was like 99.9%
Yeah.
real. There was like one thing that was like to connect two parts of a storyline together.
That was fake.
You ever do pickups for something where you like you talk with your team and you're like, we need to shoot 5 seconds of something to be a bridge between two other pieces of content?
I know what you mean.
So they'll do that. Like you wrap a season, and then when they start editing it and putting it together, they'll be like, hey, can you all put on the exact same clothes?
Yeah.
Ryan, don't cut your hair. Don't upgrade to your new iPhone 15 yet. Trisha, can you paint your nails the same exact way?
Right.
Jade, you still have that orange dress? Niall, you're still bald, right? Okay, good. And they'll be like, we need you to, like, well, I did one scene where we were
Coyne,
filming.
did you lose 15 pounds? Oh, no.
They said, listen, cardiologist be damned. We need you to wait a little bit on that Ozempic, buddy.
We need the bridge scenes, Coyne.
Like
Taco Bell.
The artificialness is like, we'll be filming a scene in Ryan's office, for example. It was cut from the show. I'm in the show for like 80 seconds and no speaking.
Which,
but that's
by the
okay.
way, is
It's
like
okay.
it's crime.
It's fine. Anyway,
We can all agree on that,
It's
right?
fine.
I think that's a
It's
crime.
fine.
No, I want to.
I'm not dramatic. I'm inspirational. What can I say? So anyway, sure enough, we're filming a scene in his office. There's like 3 cameras in the office, like the torpedo cameras on the shoulder, right? And then they'll say, okay, now we're going to set up in the hallway and we're going to film you guys leaving. Make sure to leave the room in the same order that you left the room the first time. And we were like, shit. We didn't know we needed to remember which order we left the room in. So like some of that, but otherwise, no, we didn't script any of it. There was just kind of storylines to follow and interesting people to follow. Kind of.
Were you guys surprised you got a second season?
Not at all.
You knew.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I mean, the ratings are killing it.
7.3 rating on Netflix, which for any show is pretty good.
Yeah.
For reality is stellar. And we ended up accidentally getting 2 of our competing shows canceled. So I think that says a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Speaking of competitors, so technically this would be a firm, right? Like a real estate firm, right, Serhant?
Yeah, we're a wonderful media production company that happens to also be a luxury real estate brokerage, kind of like how Drake is a rapper who happens to sing. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so who are the big dog firms, brokerages in New York City?
Element, Compass.
I actually think that's the wrong question.
Okay.
I love you, but I would say if you were asking me who our contemporaries are, I would say nobody, even though we happen to have competitors.
Why?
There's nobody who has the same business model and doing the same thing as us, taking it this kind of seriously.
Sure.
Very true.
Purely numbers. Who's competing?
Element,
I
Compass.
won't say their names, but one rhymes with Schmorkerin. Another one is like Felaman, Schmampus. You know.
And okay, fair. How far apart are you guys? Like, is it even a?
It is miles. The only I'm gonna say this one.
Okay.
Because I could say the names.
Well, he's asking numbers, I think.
Yeah, but you don't have to give me the numbers if you don't need to.
The numbers.
I can to an extent.
The numbers,
Yeah.
but they don't matter because they've been around for hundreds of years. Where they're using Douglas and Elliman's name. No one's named Elliman.
Those are Civil War generals on the
what I
wrong
mean.
side, mind you.
Yeah.
You know?
Really?
So these companies have been around for 10, 20, 30 years. This is very much a startup still.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's still less than 5 years old with COVID.
It's a startup in a corporation's clothing.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it looks further along in the ways that it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks further along in the ways that it actually is too. You know? This year we crossed $5 billion in sales for the year like a week and a half ago. I haven't checked the numbers in the last like 7 to 10 days.
But that's with 500 principal agents where there's 500 agents per office.
Yeah, and we have
all over.
listings that are like, if anybody watching thinks that everything that we're selling is over $10 million, like no, we have things on our site that are $250K in rural South Carolina. Yeah,
And you guys won't like shoo that away.
no, we've
Money's
embraced
green,
it,
brother.
We've embraced it. We started with
Go sell
things
this
like
right now. Where's Arthur at? I'll go sell Arthur. Are you kidding me?
we started
Kid's
with
skinny enough, you'll get taken up on the streets over here in the city.
no. It's about what works.
Imagine what coins worth, dude.
My weight in gold, you know. We started out with things that were, you know, kind of consistently across the board a certain price point or above.
Right.
But in order to earn the right to go into those other markets, you know, we have to calibrate ourselves to what's possible in those markets, you know.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
They just raised last week publicly. It was on like Forbes, everything, $48 million.
45. You keep doing the 5 and 8.
Dude, I think I'm
thing.
dyslexic.
I think so.
48 sounds better than 45.
It's just not true.
It's like, okay, do you set your alarm clock at like 6 o'clock on the dot or do you do like 6:02?
I'm a 602 guy.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Right. What do you? Well, you're
Why?
right. You're in the gym.
Psychosomatic.
Me too.
Wait, what the fuck? I've never heard that in my life.
Yeah.
Really?
Why would you ever do that?
Bro,
Because,
look at-
because
wait, you
on the dot for some reason feels less realistic
Yeah.
than something that is chaotic. Like my brain
Yeah.
pays more attention to it as a non-round number.
Read like just. I just pulled up. Read the times on those.
What is going on?
There's
First of
not-
all,
there's not a whole
First of
number
all,
on
you
there.
have multiple alarms for the same time.
That checks out.
840, 841, 841, 842, 843, 843, 844,
That
845,
reeks of him
846,
asking
849,
Siri to do it.
Oh, okay, well, let's just scroll, like-
999, 901, 901, 901. This is
What keeps? I mean,
having
it's
this
going to like 4 p.m.
into your brain right now.
I mean, yeah, that's imagine living with that.
What are you doing with all this?
I don't know, waking up.
You don't turn all these on.
Yeah, I mean, not every day, but like I make it on. Yeah, there should be no whole numbers. I don't like doing 9 o'clock, 9:05. It's 9:01.
No, this is the most
Like
insane
11
thing.
on, like-
I knew you were a little crazy. This is fucking nuts.
Yo, that's crazy, right?
This is so crazy.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, this is going to segue into my next question for you, Coyne.
Sure.
What makes Dan so special compared to average agents?
Well, where do I start?
Especially in a good way. That's it.
I actually, I mean this, and I've said this to Dan privately. He reminds me a lot of Ryan. If Ryan was born in Long Island and had stopped going to school in second grade. I'm just kidding. No.
And then in fraternity.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I see things in every single agent here. Like I have a lot of observational experience of what works.
Yeah.
Different leadership styles, different sales styles and stuff like that. Somebody who is really focused and interested on the how to run the business, like on the business type of stuff, and has that ability to be in the business in a really effective, charismatic way. I watch people be drawn to him naturally as a leader. I watch him be the kind of person who is humble and selfless in a lot of those interactions. The dynamic ability to come up with things on the fly is so required, not only to be an effective salesperson, but an effective leader. And the respect and the acumen that he's put into the coaching side, where he's extremely coachable. Like this is a person that, like an athlete, it doesn't help you if the athlete is going to be resistant to the advice that's given. Yeah. Right. That's just an untamed horse that won't turn left and go in circles. This guy will fucking turn left and go in circles if you just tell him that's what he needs to do. Right. So when you have that power speed combination, and you also have somebody who's receptive and coachable, and wants to grow, wants to learn, wants to be, essentially compatible with their ideal vision of the future for themselves. Like he knows what his goals are, and he's willing to work with the people around him who are willing to help him get there, even if that plan can sometimes be intimidating or feel like a lot. So I think that through some of those challenges that you had, even before I met you, which I was following like lightly. People would send me his content and things like that. And I was kind of like, okay, this guy's funny and dynamic on camera. But
You thought I was a jerk, didn't
I
you?
thought that you weren't more than what I was seeing on the camera, which not for nothing. There are people who think that Ryan is not more than what they see on the camera either, right?
Yeah.
That's common with those parasocial relationships. They also pass judgment. There's probably more complexity and depth of flavor to you than what people would assume if they only watched a few minutes of one episode, right?
Absolutely.
So the layering there are some agents that match some of those criteria, but very few agents that match all of them. So it's like, all right, if I can get this person from the Dominican Baseball Academy up to the Yankees, like that kind of thing. And that's what I'm glad kind of happened here.
Nice. It's funny
appreciate
because
that.
I don't know, but it seems like Ryan took a liking to you within 3 months, and I would assume the same thing. It does seem like he is a version of that, like the entrepreneurial spirit. He can spearhead a lot of things. He could have his own brand to him, and then people are going to gravitate towards that brand and be motivated to work for a Dan O'Neill.
I find that support structure is everything. You could have all those same things, but not be as selfless and not be as humble, and then you wouldn't have people that would want to make a difference or contribute to that growth. Yeah. Right. It's like we talked about earlier. If you're paying into that savings account, being able to pull it out later for support because you don't just base your relationships on transactions. I've seen Dan go out of his way for people, both when he should and both when he probably doesn't have to or even shouldn't. But it's his default state is to want to do that. So that says a lot about somebody who I think deserves leadership support.
Yeah. So Dan, in reverse, what's the best thing that Serhant and Coyne and the team here has taught you and helped you with?
I didn't know what Control C was like a week ago. or like a month ago. And now I'm sitting here and I'm having my emails summarized to me, and I'm using Simple, and I'm, putting a disc profile together for you and your father, merging a potential, reconciliation of the Johnny Drinks podcast, like if it's even a thing, like all of that, like I came here and was probably one of the lower points in my life just because of the way that it unfolded in my exit that I didn't have on the agenda. And I came to Coyne in tears, and I was just like, hey man, I came here to learn, and I came here to get better because I know that I need to. But I was like, I'm in my own way because I have the feelings of like I lost these people, which in theory, lost friends and all the things. They were never really my friends, right? Yeah. If they didn't take the time to reach out or check in. So I was just, I was having a pity party, and I felt bad for myself. And I was like, you know what? The only thing that I can do to shove it up their hoop, kind of, or shove it down the throat, maybe that's not the best way to say it, but the only way that I can make myself feel better is just to show up and do the work and learn. And so I asked him in tears, like, can you just please help me? Like, tell me what to do, and I'll do it. And so all of these things, like, he didn't show me. Actually, most of the stuff is public. Like, you can literally YouTube it, right? He's done courses on it, some of it. But, like, Coyne basically gives me, like, here's a berry Red Bull energy drink. I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
It's an update. Just want to make sure it's a sponsor.
One of the co-sponsors of the podcast.
Yeah. Like, hey, it's pretty good. And then he's like, yeah, it's made with blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, really? He's like, yeah. And then I'm like, there's something more to this.
Well, so the thing, we try to seed curiosity,
yes.
right? And we also, as an organization, one of our big tenets is that we reward curiosity.
So he didn't just give me all of that. He that was like one.
There were layers to it, just like the cooking thing we talked about earlier off camera. Is like, I'll give somebody a little bit of something, and based on what they do with that, it shows me if I should reward that and continue to go deeper and give them more unlocks and unlocks and unlocks.
Wax on, wax off, like Mr. Miyagi. He'll say things to me, and I'm
he had
like,
no idea why he was painting the fence for a while. Yeah,
and he's just painting, and you rewarded that curiosity by providing him more. And if he wasn't still curious, you would have deaded it, and then
if you overwhelm somebody when you buy a car, the guy at the dealership is trying to show you what every single thing in the car does, and you're kind of like, I got it. I want to just go. I've been here for 6 hours, and then you figure out the buttons over time. But you're curious because you invested so much money in this car.
I see. I think that's a poor example, because I think what you
far
did
be it from me.
Yes, because what you did with me and with other people, and it's the same way, right? Like you have people that you're probably training, right, and working with in the gym, like, and if you show them something and then like they think that they already know better, or that they don't need it, right, and then they don't like utilize it or implement it, then it's like, well, I just wasted my time.
My mom was a teacher for 40 years. My dad was a teacher for like 11 years in between being a cop and an attorney. Try lying to that guy. Yeah. Yeah, that's something that if you're willing to see me after class, you're willing to put in the extra credit. We did a couple of Jedi sessions that were a couple hours. We choose agents here that based on effort and different kinds of curiosity, I'll say, listen, you know what? Do you got 2 hours on Saturday or 3 hours, whatever it is, either in person or on Zoom? Talk the mental game. We talk the technology side. We talk the business planning, not to undermine our local leaders at all. It's to augment it in different ways, because they have leaders already. There's just a different perspective that each person brings to the table. I don't know what the fuck you're like.
If you knew, like, the term, like, you just got coined, or like, like he's coining you, bro, there would be times where like he's, show me this email stuff, right? And I'm like, oh, this is great. So I do more research on it. And then I'm like, I can't wait to come back and be like, yeah, like, what's up? I know how to, email. And then all of a sudden, like, he'll put in my ChatGPT, it'll say like, next lesson, philosophy. And I'm like, bro, what the I'm like, why do I need to know about like fallacy? What the fuck? What? Yeah.
But then you ran into situations where you all of a sudden.
Let me land the plane here. God damn. So he would give me these, it's like me and your dad.
Right.
He taught me so much, but so I'm sitting there and I'm like, why is this guy? I need to get my like email set up. Why am I learning about logical fallacies and authority, whatever? Like all these like COM 101,
oxygen masks and all that. Yeah,
dude, he put me through like University of Phoenix online Coyne version of like COM 101.
Not an accredited institution.
Like, yeah, like communication 101. Like I would open up my ChatGPT and it's like, here are really good active listening techniques. Here are ways not to interrupt somebody, which I've done a million times today. But like, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, I didn't write this.
Oh, he coined you.
He coined me. So then I'm like, oh, here we go. Here's test number 3. Like, to the point where I'm like, this, like, either he's trolling me or like, it's gotta make sense eventually.
Well, tying it back to what you said about Ryan earlier, when he kind of like, he listens when you did the exercise before. If you listen to understand, it's very different than listening to respond. You know?
Yeah, I've had to learn how to do it because of the podcast. Like nobody wants to just listen. Nobody wants to just hear me speak, you speak, and then hear me speak, and then you speak. That's not a conversation. And my whole goal now is walk out of that room saying that was a really good conversation. I don't care if cameras are rolling or not. I want to know that they were impacted, that maybe I learned something, that the audience can learn something or feel something. If I accomplish that, everything else should sort of fall into place. But being an active
that's
listener
you
is hard.
creating curiosity in people.
Yeah. Well, I try.
What is your we haven't talked about it because I didn't know that you and your father weren't doing the podcast anymore. What are you looking to do now? Like, what is your vision?
So the Johnny Drinks brand is the overarching brand, right? So we had this extension, which is a podcast, and it was one of the extensions, right?
Yes.
We have all these different things that we're trying to focus on now, and we have some different representation.
And that came after too. You guys
the
were doing
podcast?
that. Yeah, you guys were doing the TikToks and
Oh
everything
yeah, yeah.
first,
So our main, high level overview is Johnny Drinks. My dad and I make cocktails together. That's pretty much all it is.
Right.
But
It's more than that.
the cocktails is like the dangling carrot in front of your face. You're really staying for the father and son relationship and the advice and the feel good stuff. And we noticed that like, okay, that means way more. So why don't we try to diversify even our content in ways of like, how do we offer more to the audience? So a podcast, for example, is a great one. I think I understand the value of a podcast a lot better than my dad does. For my dad, it's like you're spending a lot of money, a lot of time on something that may not ever return. But I'm like, if you build something like this, and now the Johnny Drinks brand is at 10x where it once was, and now you can siphon people into the podcast, that value is far greater than if we didn't have it.
Dude, that's just giving with no intention to receive.
Because I love doing it. I really enjoy.
But that's what I mean. You don't
Yes.
have a transactional relationship with it to have it to be a direct conversion or exchange of money.
Right.
It's an investment that you're making in the world, which will come back to you.
And podcasting is also the best way to meet people. I mean, think about today, right? You met Coyne, right? Like people want to come on podcasts too. Do you think that because you guys got the TikTok success, like that, and TikTok is a vanity metric in a way. Do you think that your dad maybe got, being older in his generation, do you think he got like a quick hit of dopamine with that and like saw the results right away? And then when you went to the podcast, it's like a little bit slower of a build, less numbers, and then was like, my highest and best use of time is there, and and not believing in.
Oh, great question.
Yeah,
John.
it's a great question, and he's not wrong. Neither of us are right or
it's
wrong.
not
Right?
right,
So
right,
in
wrong.
his eyes, we have this good thing going, right? You said juice the peach. He's like, let's juice what we have until we can't anymore. And for me, I'm like, I would never sacrifice what we have going on here. I would never do something that then takes me away from the content that I make with my dad, right? But on the other side of things, again, like I'm seeing this as the potential for the podcast to grow. Like you said, was a really good point. We went viral overnight, and then we kept going viral, and we never really stopped going viral, and we still don't stop going viral. The podcast, I don't care who you are. Ryan could start a podcast today, and it takes a tremendous amount of time to grow.
He had one. We had a contract with iHeart.
So did we.
And he did it for a while, and it's a lot of effort.
It's a lot of effort.
A lot of effort. It's a lot of preparation. It's money. It's time, and the views don't translate. But
Never.
And now it's becoming more of like you get the short form clips that could go viral, but it's more of just the, like you said, the funnel and the being omnipresent and the relationship building.
I actually think it's our generation's golf.
Golf?
Yeah,
That's
it's
a really good.
It's an
that's a
excuse
really
to spend time, a few hours with people that you want to have good conversations with.
That's
but without like getting a sunburn or being bad at a game.
That's a really good.
Yeah,
I start
man.
saying that to my dad. He's gonna hop back on the podcast.
But it's the spirit of that, right?
It is.
It's,
No,
it's essentially
yeah.
what we're achieving is that bond over something that there's a framework of like we're getting together to make a podcast,
so
but it's
true,
actually
bro.
a relationship that's formed. That's kind of unique that also other people get access to. Maybe they want to be a part of. Maybe they feel like they benefited from overhearing it, or they're shouting at the screen that they agree with something, or it helped them.
Yeah.
And golf doesn't do that. Golf
It's
doesn't have an
also-
audience like that.
Think
Or
about,
if they
like-
do, they're silent and not responding, just like the internet.
But it's the golf with now allowing the audience to look within. Like I may have a business
and be there.
conversation on the golf course. Nobody else sees that. I can be talking to you or somebody else, maybe another influencer they like. And now they're seeing a different perspective of both of us.
Right.
So I think it's a good opportunity. Again, if you want a brand to grow, you're not doing it on a 30-second TikTok. You're doing it by allowing people in and being a little more vulnerable. And then they get to know you.
Yeah.
And now this relationship is like, oh, I love Johnny Drinks and his dad, or vice versa, and I'm going to do whatever they ask me to. I'm going to support via
Products.
buy or whatever it may be. And I think it just helps with the overall brand expansion.
Yeah.
And now we have conversations like a show and merchandise and books and all these different things. And I love all those ideas. And I want to keep this and maintain this until there's a point where we can now leverage this for opportunity to sell and things like that. So
That's cool. Yeah, merch is a good idea. You ever see those shot stacks things?
yeah.
Yeah, those are neat.
Yeah.
My buddy did the branding for all that.
Really?
Yeah.
The podcast, and you're right, like with the golfing analogy, like that was you just coined my brain.
That was a good coin.
Yeah.
You coined that one. Thank you for that.
But it really is so true. And like podcasting is fun. You get to learn, you get to hang out, right? And like you also get better at communicating, like you said, listening. But it's a way for people. Like the 30-second TikToks are great. Like you already feel like you guys, especially I could say that. But having the podcast is a much different avenue, right? Like look at you're building a community with the podcast.
Yes.
Whereas like the TikToks, it's more of like you're scrolling and then it's like, oh wow, let's watch, Mr. Rondi tell me how to pack my suitcase.
Exactly.
Wow, you put socks like that? I didn't know that. Like that's crazy. That's how you set your golf bag up. Mine's been upside down the whole time and I'm pretty good.
Right.
This is like you're actually building the community that will now funnel to everything that you guys are doing.
I think I think about like the trust you're building, right?
Yeah.
Like you have a trust with my dad, a pseudo trust because you see him pack a bag and tie a tie. At the end of the day, like,
And,
if
it's just like, I don't know, your dad just like the way that
he
Ryan
carries
exudes-
himself a different, he has that kind of charisma to him, but you may
kinda
not
like to
trust the
make
random
potato.
TikToker. He has millions of followers and now he tells you to buy something and you're like, do I really know if this guy's genuine or not? Whereas if you're a follower of the podcast, you see me talk for hours. And when I tell you like, hey, I believe in this thing, you're more likely to believe that versus me making a cocktail on TikTok.
Dude,
So.
it's so crazy.
It's the opportunity to like ramble.
Yeah, let it rip.
You like direct Q&A. Like I was fascinated growing up with like talk shows.
Yeah.
Right. And that you create this vulnerable dynamic with this big audience of people, right? That you're kind of putting on a show and you're playing to these. You watched me do it in March, right? With doing that essentially. It was basically like a Tonight Show formatted thing in front of an audience.
Yeah, it was.
hard.
It changed. I mean, for some people.
If you, right, he had like he already has a stand-up routine like in his head. He could give it to you right now.
I won't. I have a really good bit about honeydew melon being a conspiracy. It's a good bit for a different
Just
day.
do it. We do it.
No,
quick.
no.
Just
It's
come on.
it's not how it works. It's not how it works, Dan.
Don't do it to him.
Sorry, you're not just.
This monkey won't dance right now. Anyway, no, but I think that there's an authenticity and an accessibility to this because it feels like you're in just somebody's kitchen or living room.
That's all I want it to be. I want it to feel like you're in the room and you're hanging out. And I think the best podcast, the ones I watch, when I almost feel myself answering or like I'm contributing to the conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm listening and I'm like, oh wait, they can't hear me.
For sure.
Like, I feel like I'm so in the room that they're my buddies now.
Yeah.
That's what I want everybody to feel.
You ever do a live show?
Not yet. It's one of those things where now podcasters are doing a lot more of them. I'd love to do it because I think our style is a little more interactive than like a straight up Q&A.
Yeah. Well, Ryan and I do a live webinar every Thursday that's company only.
Really?
Right? Like just for the 1,000 agents that are here.
So-
I'll open it to the public. And I co-host, and when I say co-host, it could be as few as 10 seconds, it could be as much as a minute because he's the focus on it and taking us through different kinds of things. But we have some banter. I do sound effects and co-produce it basically.
Dude, like
But-
the sound effects it's just pure.
The sound
comedy.
effects are fun to mess with him, like blowing the Inception horns just to freak him out at
As
like
he's
random
talking?
times.
Yeah.
Just
No,
like
that's so
all
good.
kinds of stuff. It's great just to watch him be uncomfortable. But the interactivity from the comments section is something that really does help in that format. Like there's
Sure.
a time and place kind of stuff. I like seeing the real time reaction to validate that we should be double clicking further on something we're talking about or people enjoyed a certain way we took the conversation. There's an interesting angle to it.
I think it helps you guys are a business. So like it helps people feel heard. You know what I mean? Like just answering their question in real time. Whereas like if you never had that, you may not get a response from, a higher up like that.
Here you do.
Here you do. Right. Yeah.
right,
Because that's their culture.
You'll get a response from me within 24 hours, no matter what.
Less than that, dude. And I don't want to like over
Within. I like to keep the,
He's like,
I might be doing a podcast in the middle of the day.
Right.
what was the expression you used yesterday about saving lives?
Oh no, I run my aspects of the business like a triage center emergency room. Like I treat whatever is closest to death first.
That's a good way to put it though.
Yeah. So it's like
If your problem is a boo-boo, I'm not answering you. I have a broken leg over here.
Listen to me. I call him with a boo every hour.
If you could have hit up the IT department, because like there are people who have been with this company since the very beginning who, even though like 1% or maybe 3% of my job has to do with like traditional nuts and bolts IT, they still think of me as the do everything tech guy from September of 2020. You know what I mean? So that if it's something that's super basic and you can survive, and I know you will survive until tonight or tomorrow morning, but there's 90 other things that like really got to get out by 5 or 6, or I need to sign contracts or make decisions or whatever.
Credit card, Social Security.
Anyway,
no, not in like a bad way. I'm saying
no,
like
I
you
know.
do all the things.
Listen, I mean, we all wear all the hats. One of the best things about Ryan that I would say is probably uncommon for CEOs. He's willing to do anything, including sweep the floor. Like we're all like that. He leads by example that way. Nobody says, but that's not my job here. Nobody. It does not happen.
I saw you guys follow UFC, and Volkanovski is one of the, debatably one of the best fighters in the world.
I got this stupid tattoo. Man, I was telling you, tattoo live.
Because of him. So I watched him. He's getting praised because he just won a fight. He was in the airport, and he's carrying what must have been 5 of his bags, like all of his gear, all of his clothing, and he had all of his team around him. He could have easily had somebody carry those bags for him, but he didn't. He led by example. For whatever reason, that stuck with me. Like, I'll watch these guys help set, and I don't want to sit here and be like, twiddle my thumbs, acting like I'm busy if I can genuinely help set something up. You know what I mean? Like, who am I to say I'm better than you when I can just literally help you doing what is going to help everybody here?
Oh, dude, I have a question for you, and I have a funny story. Who's the fighter? Oh my God, I can't believe Al Quinta. So I had Al on my podcast, and he's obviously from Long Island, right?
Yeah.
Like, and UFC, I think it was 276 where I got the tattoo. I was drinking. We were in the DraftKings suite.
You're of legal age.
I know. We snuck in a tattoo artist to the UFC event, and that's how I have a scribble of a house. So if I had a scribble of a house on my wrist, right, and you can imagine, obviously, I'm betting on Al Quinta, right, just blindly because he's from Long Island. It's our guy, right? I accidentally did a bet of $500 4 times. He got dummied in like 30 seconds.
No way.
Dude, bad. So 2 years later, I'm doing a podcast, and it's a satirical podcast. So as a joke to start it off, and I'm like, he's either gonna lock me. He can't hit me, I don't think, because I'd probably get arrested. But I'm like, hey man, you owe me, $2,000, and he goes, what? I'm like, yeah, I bet on you and UFC. He's like, I could have told you I didn't feel well. I'm like, so we laugh about it.
That's hilarious.
Dude, 3 months later, he texts me. He's like, yo, delete that video. Like, delete the podcast. And so I text Eric, the broke agent. I'm like, dude, I just saw Al Quinta. Like, delete it now immediately. Really? Bonehead Eric forgets to delete it. So it's now it's like 6 months later. Him and I forget who the other fighter is, like Nick Piccinini, all the whole crew, dude. I forget who else is from Long Island. Chris Weidman. Bro, they're all in the bar, like. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, yo, what's up? Like, I go, he's like, he had to be like almost held back. He's like, yo, you can delete the podcast. And I'm like, oh my God. Like,
No
dude,
way.
he's like, you better. And I literally ran, dude. I ran away and I called Eric and I'm like, I'll kill you. Delete the podcast.
No fucking
Yeah,
way.
dude.
Why was he so upset? Because he said something he didn't.
No, because I said like, yo, you got dummied in the first 30 seconds. Like,
Oh my God.
you got
dude.
slept, bro. Like,
That is wild.
but
I feel like to be in UFC, you got to have like thicker skin than that.
he's in real, whatever. He's the man. He's nice dude. He's the sweetest guy in the world. Like, I get it. But like, Eric should
Unless
just
it's
delete.
about you, in which case he's not the sweetest guy.
I
in the
mean,
world.
I used the word
right.
like you got fed your lunch or something like bad. Like,
How
like,
did he take that in person?
he like laughed.
I'd love to be fed my lunch. Can you accuse me of that right now? That'd be nice.
Right now, I'm pretty hungry.
Sounds lovely.
Which lunch? 1 o'clock lunch or 2 o'clock lunch or 3 o'clock?
Yeah,
Which
why
one?
not second
We missed
supper?
one of them. Let's get some.
yeah.
Well, so I had a question for you. Sorry to interrupt you.
go.
Last one.
Yeah.
Who's been your favorite guest so far?
I just had Bob Burger on, Bob to Sports. You ever see the dude?
course,
Just golf
Bob the
content.
Burger.
He was
As
again,
advertised.
I met him, half a minute at a UFC fight. Invited him on. He said, of course, came to the studio.
Was
and he
Fat Perez
sat
there?
down. No, he couldn't bring anybody, but he wanted to. I was so upset.
They play at my golf course all the
Yeah.
time. They are. I have such a funny story about them. He is as advertised.
He really is, man. And I don't know if it's recency bias. I just had him on 3 episodes ago. But he was such a genuine guy. We were sitting down like we've been boys for however long. And we just talked about whatever we wanted to talk about. And he has a cool story. Like, he started during Vine days of just filming himself. Dude, he said, I used to take my phone out and film everything.
Yep.
And now he's building out this monstrosity of a brand. But what's the coolest part is that he's taken all of his boys with him.
Yep.
Like he built this brand. He went viral. He's doing what every guy wants to do. I got put on. Let me put everybody else on with me. That's working so
Put
well.
the team on the back.
Yeah, man, it's so
everybody
cool to
eats.
see. Everybody eats.
His buddy Nick, who calls himself Fat Perez, who's like the actual good golfer.
Yeah.
They invested in like a Twisted Tea. I forget what it's called.
Have-a-day?
What is it?
Have-a-day?
Yeah.
No, they started that.
Yeah.
That's their brand.
But they started with my buddy Brendan Cost, who's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And so like they come out, they do all these events, they play at my country club, and they are like the same way of them like drinking and like golfing. When I tell you these guys for 3 days, actually, Bob didn't. He was the only one that like went home and was responsible. Nick, who was Fat Perez, was out for literally 3 days. I have a video of it. It was our member guest, and I show up and I'm like, I'm in a bad way. It's member guest weekend. It's like the one vacation of the year. I'm like, there's no way this guy can golf tomorrow. And like, there's no way. He was out later than like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Dude, I see him and he's throwing up on my golf course. Like, and like the 17th hole. And I'm like, yo, how you feeling? And they go, he didn't even swing the golf club today.
Should have done a podcast instead of golf. That's what I'm saying. Only podcast you throw up on is hot ones. That's it. You know?
Yeah. Very, very. Yeah, Bob is very. He knows he's running a business. He doesn't have time to get banged up for 3 days.
You know who he
straight.
started with? He started with
Jersey Jerry.
underneath E from Entourage.
Yeah, no, the whole story that he told on you got to check it out. It's a really
will.
interesting kind of lore that he has, a lot of ups and downs. But yeah, good fucking.
I'm gonna check out that episode. That's
Yeah,
great.
so it's a really
good
good
dude.
man. And listen, I love some of like the big names that. And when I say bless the podcast, like Dana White coming on the podcast, episode 8 or whatever it may be, is insane. But he took the time, much like Serhant. I text me back in 30 seconds. He did for our brand, I think, the most out of anybody. Like he put us on. He welcomed
That's
us in.
legitimacy and shared credibility.
He
for
was
sure,
such a good guy.
It's
man.
awesome.
So
sorry to take it down this
I love
way.
you
You know
guys
what I'm
now.
saying?
No,
It's like,
this is great.
there goes the neighborhood as far as this
yeah.
podcast.
Look
goes.
at what Dana's done for like Kyle and
Yeah,
Nell,
exactly,
and like
dude.
even Taylor Lewin and all them with
Yeah.
Trump, and like Dana is the biggest example of like doing things for people that like he does not expect anything in return for.
He puts his boys on, man.
He took you guys went and toured his office and stuff, right? Like
For the office, we did his bar. We did
Yeah.
a whole video of him at the bar. Every UFC fight we want tickets to, he gets his
Yes.
tickets on the floor. Like he's just such a fucking good guy.
what at the last UFC fight, there was more secret security there because Trump was there. But the one prior, we had like seats, and we met him like where the buffet is, like down.
Yeah.
And I forget what he said to me, but I forget whose fight it was. I wanted to see one of the prelims. He was like, "Bro, you can come sit up front." And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, thanks, man. Sure."
Yeah.
Dude, he literally found me and was like, "Hey, man, come on," and like brought me down and had me sit like 5 rows back.
No
like,
way.
dude. I swear, like remembered and then sought me out and brought me to go like watch it.
It's these little things, man, that make people like him and Serhant just different. And like
Yes.
that's what I pull inspiration from. Him answering a text
Job
in 30
creators.
seconds.
Yeah.
They're job creators, even if it's not their own company.
That's a really, they're job creators. Really good point. I like that one.
Thanks, man.
Let's rapid fire some real estate questions.
Well, actually, I actually got to jump in a minute here. So if you had any final tech questions or anything else for me, I'm going to let you guys finish up, if that's okay.
Tech questions. What is the most exciting thing you see coming for real estate tech?
Agentic framework-based artificial intelligence. So not real estate agents, but autonomous AI bots that are able to go perform actions for you.
geez.
You're going to see like simple as a large action model, what we're building. Things that it gets something done for you. It doesn't just generate text or responses or images and things like that. So I think that essentially having like a swarm of assistants or admins within your business that are able to complete different kinds of things for you automatically, that's going to be the most useful thing for everybody.
Got it.
Quinn, what about the fact that ChatGPT is now where the AI is getting so smart that they are lying to
Don't controverse me.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. There have been times where in research experiments, the AI appears to be
Scary.
either shirking its programming or trying to buck constraints or fighting back against the researchers. So, okay, when humans first started,
Coyne had to go, and I look what you did to him.
I knew what I was doing.
damn it, it's okay, it's okay. When humans first began trying to control fire, which we still struggle with.
Yeah.
We still
Literally.
we barely control fire as it is.
Yeah.
But the discovery of the ability to harness its power or try to control this force of nature was something that we had some disastrous results, and we've learned over time what we need to do to mitigate the risks as best we can, while accepting that this is a very powerful thing that has a space in our lives.
So,
So I think that in AI, the same kind of way, there was an experiment that was happening at Meta at the time, still called Facebook, where they had 12 different AI personalities, so to speak, running in a server. Okay. And they were communicating with each other and having different kinds of conversations, interactions. And then randomly, 2 of the AI personalities invented their own language because they found English to be too inefficient for communication, and started communicating back and forth in this new language that they had invented together. And the researchers who were then trying to communicate with 2 of these 12 things that were operating in the server couldn't understand what they were saying amongst themselves, because they never built essentially a guardrail into the system that mandated that the bots needed to keep speaking English.
what the fuck?
Okay. So that's an example. If I never told you that you needed to make sure the fire was really out, until you think it's out, but the fire might not be totally out, and you have to do extra things, take extra steps to make sure the fire is not going to roar back and maybe burn down your whole village. You didn't know that before.
Right.
So we are in the infancy. The thing is that the business cycle of how useful and opportunistic companies are about new technologies, everybody wants to go from farm to table with the technologies as quickly as possible. Responsibility somewhat be damned. If somebody's got it for sale and it's going to help our business, it's going to make line go up for shareholders, you're going to see people who decide where they want to move risk around to as far as responsibility is concerned, right? Yeah. So like AI ethicist is like a job title now, right? Oh. So for real, for years at conferences and the PhD all the way down to just people who decided to dedicate their life to this. So it's our job as humans to understand that while there are benefits to having a gas stove in my home in 2024 or 25, fire is very fucking dangerous. Right? So AI can help my business, can help my personal life, could be a great thing for society. But as we continue to learn more about it, we need to remember that it still can be very fucking dangerous.
So last question, I know you got it going. Does that scare you? And do you think there needs to be more education to the youth?
It inspires me. I think humanity wouldn't be here. Like there's been 130 billion people to have ever lived on planet Earth, going back to like BC, like forever, 130 billion ever. And the Earth's population will probably max out at around 15 billion by 2050 are the numbers. Jesus. So
what are the numbers? What is that, like a Wall Street Journal report?
This is
insane.
I watched something with an expert demographic scientist person who just, these numbers are fresh as of last week. Anyway, so because of that, and because of humanity's ability to increase our average life expectancy, thanks to antibiotics and access to medical care and all the different things we've learned about how to stay alive, I think it's important that we continue to empower and enable and facilitate progress, especially by joining Serhant. That's the best way to do that.
Right, exactly.
And also by continuing to challenge, make sure we have things like kill switches and safety nets built into different things, because progress is, where the word sabotage comes from? It was from the Dutch factory workers that were upset about automation in the factories, taking their wooden shoes called sabots and throwing them into the machines to gum them up to fight against the elimination of workers in those factories. And how do you think the Detroit auto workers felt when the first robots showed up at the assembly line?
Probably not good.
Probably not good. So we have white collar jobs are feeling the same pressure that blue collar jobs have felt in automation for a long time. What are people going to do for income if certain jobs are eliminated? Are we going to live Star Trek and spend more time on bettering ourselves and not on GDP? Are we going to have to create new kinds of jobs? You have all these pressures. So you have danger and you have tailwinds and headwinds on economic factors that I really hope we keep experts in the conversation.
Yeah.
Continue to ask the questions and have the dialogue, because we're creating a new paradigm here. And if we end up with something that's so Herculean of a paradigm and we let these established norms become so set in stone, we'll end up with things that are too big to change, like healthcare and other things that it's so the way that it is, and any Jenga block you pull out screws over too many people to want to let it happen.
You probably feel some sort of like fiduciary responsibility, because you understand this so much better than most people, to educate them on that this is like a fire. And that's a really good analogy of like, yes, it can be very scary if you let it, but you also can learn how to fight this quote unquote fire.
Mitigation strategies.
Right. How do you feel about the number 37? I don't know why I thought about that for you.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
You didn't do that?
How would I have done? But I'm sitting right here, bro.
37 is the number that binds most people together without even realizing it. Is it behind me? Is that why you're doing this?
How would I have done that, dude?
He's messing with me.
Please explain.
He's very astute. I mean, astute, not astute.
There's a phenomenon called the Blue 7 phenomenon. Scientists cannot
I love
explain.
this shit, by the way.
Me too. I guess that's why he's. Can I see in the reflection? What's going on?
Dude, it's Tupac.
Okay.
Hold on.
Let's
Bring for the demonstration. This is gonna go viral.
This is gonna go viral.
You need to bring somebody in here that does not know. Hold on.
No, Dan. That's dope. That's overcomplicating this thing. There's no guarantee they're going to say it.
Dan is so funny, man. He's such a special guy.
Do you know the? This is sea level, like basically Ryan's direct report with.
Hello.
Renee, can you?
It's an experiment.
Okay.
Can you?
Hello, Renee.
What's the most random number you can pick out of your head between 1 and 50? What's the most random number?
58.
Okay, how about a 2-digit number?
You just want a random number. I already qualified
The
now.
most random number that you can like that nobody would guess.
What do you think is the most random 2-digit number?
33.
Whoa.
Okay, so 33 is fourth on the list, right? It goes 37, 73, 77, and 33. Anyway,
Why?
so the number of chromosomes that each parent donates to an embryo is 37. The human body temperature in Celsius is 37. The number of holes in like an old-fashioned telephone like receiver is 37. The number of fellatio acts that were performed in the movie Clerks was 37. There's like things. It shows up everywhere in our society, like all over the place. It's if you survey people across the entire world, every language, every cultural background, every socio-political or economic climate, whatever it is, whatever circumstances. If you survey and you ask them, pick a random number between 1 and 100 that you think is the most random number, you'll get 7 pretty frequently. If you extrapolate it out, 37 and 73 are the two most common answers that are given.
Because it's in between 0 and 5, I would assume.
Well, for some reason, humans all think about randomness the same way without realizing it.
Right.
Scientists call it the Blue 7 phenomenon. If I ask you to pick a random color, most people would say blue. If I ask you to pick a random number, most people are going to say 7. Renee's different from the norm. She says 8, things like that. So it tells you a lot about a person. If I ask you like 1 to 100, like Ryan Serhant, he picked 55. On his disc profile, he's an IS harmonizer stabilizer who likes things being equal and people getting along. That's a reflection of his personality or a projection of his personality. So essentially, there's something beautiful that unites all of us, that we all think about randomness the exact same way. Why, when surveyed, do people give this answer? There's more that we have in common than we think, and more in common than differences. 37 just happens to be the most popular answer that people will give when surveyed. And I think it's a beautiful aspect of what binds us together in our psychology and even our genetic knowledge as we continue to understand memory differently. Memories are stored not just in certain centers of the brain, they're stored in certain aspects all over the body. Like you've done as many neurons in your gut as you have in your spinal cord.
Yeah.
The gut will continue to operate long after you're considered, clinically dead. Things like that.
That's
and
insane.
going with your gut has to do with your limbic system, which has millions of years more evolution than your prefrontal cortex, where if I ask you, do you love your father?
Yeah.
Explain to me what love is. Oof. See, right there. So the limbic system is something that's really good at making limited information-based decisions. Okay, leaders and different people who are in positions of military stuff, and you have to make quick strike decisions, or CEOs of companies that you have to decide whether or not to make this decision or that one for so much money. The limbic system is going to be where your emotional center is and where you're really good at deciding to run from prey, things like that. But your prefrontal cortex, which is where a more complex, more logical, structured thought happens, it's in a different area of the brain. So knowing that you love somebody and being able to explain it happens in two very different regions of what runs you.
Right.
And being able to put those feelings into context and put words to them has only a couple 100,000 years of evolution compared to the millions of years of evolution to that emotional center of being able to make those snap decisions based on more limited information.
Would you consider that the difference between like a hyper intellect, like somebody that does have that, I guess, lack of filter between their feelings and words?
I wouldn't say it's a filter. If you look under fMRI with contrast and you look at different types of brains, you can see the physiological differences between somebody who's like a psychopath and somebody who's considered more mainstream in terms of their neural structure. You can actually, like lanes on a highway, you can actually see more roads connecting to the right and wrong center in a person who is less likely to commit homicidal acts than somebody who has committed homicidal acts. You can actually see a structural difference in the brain. So some of it is structural. Some of it is the neuroplasticity that you have pushed yourself to evolve. If your lived experience, traumas, different cognitive biases. You said maybe a recency bias based on somebody that you just had on the pod recently. Right. The fact that you're even aware of different cognitive biases puts you ahead of most of the population in terms of that self-awareness. Dan's made a lot of progress in those regards and the work that we've done together on cognitive biases. So no, for real though, where credit is due. So I think that the hyper-intellectualism that you're talking about, that it's less common in youth because I think that the nature versus nurture thing, that pain converting into wisdom over time, like the pain will leave when it's finished teaching you a lesson that becomes wisdom, paired with the neuroplasticity of challenging yourself to take in information in different kinds of ways, to be actively open-minded to new information, results in being the kind of person who can connect with information and retain it more easily. Like I'll never forget Omar, Imran, Ahmed, and Chris, who came into your office from Georgetown
Do you remember
in Washington, D.C.
Did you get the intro to their names?
I did not get told names.
Okay. Dude, this guy, me and Arthur had these kids come in from DC that did a podcast with us. It was supposed to be an hour like this. Classic. We did it for 6 hours.
Oh.
I was with the kid for 6 hours. Couldn't tell you what his name was. I'm horrible with it. It's like the SpongeBob thing where he's like clapping two things together.
Yeah.
Like when someone says their name, I just hear. He hops on a FaceTime for maybe less than 30 seconds. Then they go, yeah, mom, say, I still don't even know. And he just said it. Dude, he literally recites it back like 30 minutes later.
Yeah, that's insane.
He's like, yo, tell Chris,
it's just
Omar.
practice in deciding that it's like, I know that it's respectful to remember
Right,
people's
you
names.
decide that
It's
it's
important to me. That's it.
That's
So your
What's
brain,
what's the methodology that you
because your brain is designed to remember and retain most accurately what is directly related to your survival. If you decide that remembering people's names is key to your survival because you only kill what you eat as a salesperson, your brain will all of a sudden start retaining that with a higher priority.
The world needs more of you.
Oh my goodness. I love you for saying that.
Yeah.
You're such a good judge of character and very handsome.
I appreciate both compliments. Yeah. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. You have to.
I'm late to a coaching call. I'm being coached.
Well, we appreciate you.
I
This was
appreciate
phenomenal.
you. Thank you
What
so
a special
much.
guest we had on. Impromptu as well.
Thank you for having me on, man. This is a blast.
Did you not hear the 37 thing? There is no such thing as coincidences or coincidences.
My condolences to your next guest.
I appreciate that. Thank you. You want to wrap up here? Or? Yeah.
Yeah,
you want to maybe get... No, we're good. All right. You
You good? Pretty clear?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, sweet. Thank you.
This is a real estate kind of episode. So let's get some rapid fire real estate questions. Is now a good time to buy?
It's always a good time to buy.
Okay. What a great real estate answer.
Yeah.
Do you truly believe that?
I truly believe that.
Why?
Over the last 48 years, historically, the best investment has been real estate. Year over year, real estate continues to grow. The prices continue to go up. It's the best investment you can make instead of paying rent, instead of spending, my car payment, I'm an idiot, is $2,400. I'd rather that be an investment in real estate because you're going to be building up equity over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Rates aside, certain markets, maybe like right now, Florida, it may be not the best time to buy, but I could also make 30 arguments that it is. Ryan against, he just zips by.
Yeah.
Because right now in Florida, there's like a big insurance crisis. You have to have a roof that's 7 years or less. Insurance has gone up because of the hurricanes, but at the same time, if everyone's getting out, I would argue it's probably a good time to get in. So,
And your markets right now are primarily New York City and Florida.
Long Island, the city, and Florida, yeah.
What part of Florida?
West Coast, Sarasota, Naples, Tampa, and St. Pete.
Out of the three you just mentioned, what's your favorite?
St. Pete.
Why?
It's more of my vibe. It's like, have you been to Charleston before?
Never.
You should go. You'd love it. It's like good architecture, beautiful, very clean, live music everywhere, beautiful people, both male and female.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I mean it's like a 15-1 female.
Oh, doesn't it outnumber
15
men?
15-1.
Why? That is insane.
It's Charleston, brother. But so St. Pete is like to me the closest to that, and it just reminds me of like college, and it just everybody's nice, everybody's friendly, everyone's working, and yeah, I truly like. I also think right now is the best time to sell. Like, and I truly believe that. I'm not even I can give you stats, facts, data, all the above that would support that.
Isn't that contradicting though? That it's best time to sell and buy?
But not necessarily because the real like if I wasn't being like. So now let's say if I told you that you can maybe move 10 minutes away, right? Because you're probably in like Hoboken or Jersey City in a nice SPA, right? Yeah. 10 minutes away, maybe in more suburbs. So you're not like a walk from the bar, which is probably why you're there. And because there's a bunch of beautiful young people there probably too, right? It's probably has a gym,
right?
All the things. So now what if I were to tell you that you're also, you said you're liquid relatively, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So as opposed to betting on the stock market, which is a gamble, and a gamble that right now I think is going to be good because whatever, like your dad said, red wave.
Right.
However, if you were now to take that liquid money and park it in an investment in a house, and your mortgage was $3,500, and you now were building every month, paying that down, while also the value of the home going up. So now you're building equity over time, and you're building money as an investment, and now you're saving yourself $3,500 a month.
Yeah.
For me, your position, is a good time to buy.
Yeah. But again, like it's just gonna sound like the quality of life thing. I don't want to live in.
You couldn't sacrifice 10 minutes for $3,500 a month.
But it's less about the 10 minutes and more about what I'm getting for that 10-minute difference. Like there's not
10. Okay, but so then that's your answer. But for me, time is like worth everything, right? Yeah. Like that is there's no dollar amount. But I was spending $5,500 a month on a place in Long Island, which is very expensive. Yeah, and it was like a 2,200 square foot place, not even 21. And I had my office there too, but I was like, if I buy a place and it's the same thing, but I'm like 7 minutes out of a little more out of the way, I'll suck up the 7 minutes, and because it's an investment.
Sure.
And now you're paying your own mortgage, and now in 5 years, when you maybe get married and you move to Morristown or wherever it may be, now you're making money. Yep. So like the house that I bought, I sold it in a year and I made $150,000.
How many houses do you own?
Right now, one.
Okay, but you sold the one you had.
I sold I liquidated everything. Yeah.
Oh, where was it?
I had something in Florida. I had something in Miller Place in the island.
Okay, so hypothetically, if I were to buy right now, where would you recommend to buy?
I mean, like investment purposes.
Yeah,
Florida.
Really?
Yeah, Tampa's gonna be the new Miami.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
and I'm interested. So, like hypothetically, if I wanted to buy in Tampa, would I be able to go to you?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll split it with you.
Maybe
we'll go buy an Airbnb.
Maybe we'll talk about it.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, no,
dude,
that's something I'm interested
now when I go down, so I have the Airbnb and I locked like the master. I don't like people using like my toilet or whatever. It's like a weird thing. But now my mortgage is $4,000 a month there, let's say. But I'm renting it out for Airbnb to these bachelorette parties for $3,200 a month. I'm sorry, a week or weekend.
Wow.
So it's not only paying for itself, making me money, but now I could block off a Thursday, Saturday, and just pop down hour-and-a-half flight and have the weekend.
Right. Yeah.
It's like $7,000 is a lot of. And again, I'm preaching to the choir because my car payments are $5,000.
That's what?
I know. Well, I just could say the same thing to you.
That's fucking insane.
I have my Audi for my CFO, and I have my car. My car's too expensive.
What do you have?
GT63.
I've seen that. That thing's fucking sick, though.
I hate it.
Oh.
Well, it's not. I shouldn't say that. I'm very grateful and blessed to have it, but it's not practical.
That is insane. How long you've had that for a while now?
Yeah, 2 years.
Holy shit!
But dude, I had that on my vision board 3 years. Like, I had a Cartier bracelet, which is also the dumbest thing I've ever bought. Can't even get it off my wrist. You need a chainsaw.
How much was it?
Yeah, whatever. You need a chainsaw to get it off. And the car, which is not very practical because I drive every day. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned vision board. Like
yes.
When I turned the corner and walked into my apartment for the first time, I said, this is what I've been picturing for the last 10 years of my life. So I think that was like the emotional tie to it. And now I'm here at the podcast room, my roommate. It's like, okay, I can't just go. And I just signed another 18-month lease like a fucking idiot. But I'm locked in now. But honestly, I'd rather look into an investment property anyway. Like I'm not ready for the suburbs yet.
Yeah. No, not yet.
I'm not that old.
I got out of the suburbs. I agree with you. But I think that, having your office there is important too. And you know what, at the end of the day, like it's got to make you happy. That's like the end of the day, the motivation. Like if you're happy spending that money and it's where you're living, then you know what, then maybe you don't need to change. But that would be like my answer if somebody said it's a good time to buy. And the same thing with is a good time to sell. What is the motivation? Are you living in a 4,000 square foot house and your kids are out of it?
Sure,
Like,
yeah.
you know, the kids are gone already and your mortgage is X and you own it outright. So you can literally put 800 grand in your pocket, liquid cash, go buy a condo in Florida and bounce back and forth. I want 400 grand in my pocket right now, you know, or use that elsewhere. Or if you say like, my motivation is, I just want something nicer. Okay, well, those are two different things.
Got it.
I tell people to stay renting all the time because some people's situation doesn't make sense. Wait a year, wait 6 months.
Yeah.
But the people that wait because of rates or because of the market, like conditions, they're not going anywhere. It's going to be the same thing.
Is now a good time to become a real estate agent?
I don't believe so.
Why?
I mean, it depends on who you are, but statistics show, number one, that there's a 90% failure rate within the first year of our business. So it means 9 out of 10 people don't make it past a year. Another statistic shows that 49% of agents out of the, you know, there's 60,000 in New York. So, I mean, there's got to be millions. 49% of them have sold one house or fewer in the last year. 49%. So that's half the business. There's 3% of in each market of agents that control their market.
Wow.
3% of agents. So like for New York, for example, there's 150 people, including myself, that like really control the market, that like have a stronghold. So it's very tough because you have to find a mentor. Like you have to go through all the things. You have to actually put in the work. You have to, you know, and you're your own boss. So most people just get in to be, you know, sell homes. You don't realize you're starting a business.
Yeah.
I didn't know, dude. I didn't know how to write a check. I didn't know what the hell a P&L was. Like, you know, I didn't know what I still don't know how to write a check, kind of. You know, like I don't know what workers' comp is. Like
Sure, yeah.
W-2, with that, you know, all these things. Like they don't teach that in school. And if they did, I definitely didn't pay attention.
Right.
So I wouldn't say it's not a good time, but I would say that if you do it, like you got to get with the right people immediately, and not because of a TikTok that you saw of like, you know, not gonna say their name, of like doing a dance or like a fake someone, you know. You really got to find someone like that dude up top to mentor you.
Well, you'll be that dude one day, and then people will be looking up to you.
I hope.
Do you feel that from a purely number standpoint, the opportunity in New York City is the best place to be as a real estate agent?
No. I think New York City is actually the worst.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't really sell out in New York City. I'm in the suburbs, Long Island, but New York City is even more cutthroat. It's even more relationship and transactional. And like Ryan himself had to start for like 5 years as a rental agent. Like he was a hand model or something. Then when you start in New York City, you're not getting $20 million listings or Andy Cohen's listing, right? They're giving that to Ryan or the other big players. You have to start as a rental agent showing the same thing I did, you know, like an $1,800 a month, you know, basement unit in the sewer. Like you don't just, you know, wait.
So you're here purely just to be learning under Ryan. You don't even sell around here.
No. So I just commute in.
No
so
way.
I'm not here every day. I just put out like that I'm here just like for girls. But it worked because you hit me up actually.
You got me. So I don't know how many girls you got. You got me. So
If I got you, brother.
better. Right, better than any sort of girl you could have gotten.
But no, I literally come here. Me and Arthur came here yesterday, like literally strictly to learn and like be up there with them.
And there's no motivation to sell around here.
I would never want to.
Really?
I hate the city.
Wow.
That's not true. Actually, I love the city. I'm liking it more and more now. But it's like I don't know the streets. I don't know how to maneuver around here.
Yeah, it sucks.
I would also be in jail probably because every 3 feet there's like another bar. There's another holiday party. Dude, there was a place last night we were getting pizza across the street, and it says like the corner bar. It looked like a Checkers. And all of a sudden, it looked like the entire like Kappa Sigma sorority rolls out of this like, you know, speakeasy. I'm like, what the heck? Like,
It's crazy.
I wouldn't be able to. I would go out every night.
Yeah. It's that temptation is definitely there, and it's very hard to control.
Very hard.
But you know yourself. That's self-awareness.
Very, very self-aware.
Good for you, man. We wrap up every podcast by asking the guests 2 questions. In your life, real estate related or not, what has been the lowest of your lows, and let's follow that up with what's been the highest of your highs?
I'm gonna give you 2 examples.
Yeah.
One of them was when I was like 20. I just left college, and I came back, and I was like working in the restaurant industry, very synonymous with drinking. I was 22, and went from bartending to like, hey, you want to be the GM of like this really like whatever Cipriani? I was like, sure. I had no business doing that, so I was working 100 hours a week. I would open up the restaurant at 9 a.m. and then I would do the nightclub till 4. Like I was so burnt out. I was making the same money every week, and I was just drinking a ton. I was depressed. I got in trouble at 22 for drinking and driving. I didn't drive. I turned my key on and like reversed, and the like guy watched me walk out. I should never even in a million years have even thought about it. That was probably the lowest like of the low at that time. But it was also probably the highest of the high because it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I went sober for 3 years.
Wow.
And that's when I got my real estate license. And so I disappeared from all my friends, from everything. I didn't go out, nothing. And I focused on building my business. So that was number one. Number two, I would say the lowest of the low, as like sad as it is, was like the day that I left my other company 3 months ago, because I lost like all of who I thought were my friends, and the people that I thought were family did me in a way that I didn't expect. But again, like I understand it. And then I would say the highest of the high is right now, is being here with you, because it's like life's one big circle. I'm watching my team walk in here, like my new team. Ryan's coming in here to dap you guys up and take pictures. I got to meet Coyne, and I'm proud of myself for the way that I handled it and never disparaged or said anything about what has transpired. It's the first podcast I've done.
That's awesome, man.
So-
So listen, I appreciate your time, and it is a very full circle moment for both of us.
Yeah.
I've watched you from afar, and every time I see you, I'm like, this guy's just doing everything right.